latest archaeological discoveries that left scientists speechless. An ancient tomb was opened for the first time in more than 1,000 years, leaving archaeologists stunned by the strange grave goods hidden inside. A skeleton that appeared to be nothing more than lifeless bones turned out to reveal the story of a civilization that disappeared thousands of years ago. An ancient boat lay undisturbed beneath the sand for 4,000 years. A loaf of bread remained almost perfectly preserved for more than 1,300 years, and a beautifully carved wooden hand dating back to the Neolithic period. Every one of these discoveries is real, yet the strangest part is that the more archaeologists excavate, the more scientists realize that history is far more complex than we once believed. Every new discovery is like opening another door into the past, but behind each door lies countless mysteries that still have no complete explanation. Hello everyone! Welcome back to Ancient History, the channel where we explore the most fascinating secrets of the ancient world, from legendary civilizations to archaeological discoveries that are shaking the scientific community today. In today's video, we'll explore 9 latest archaeological discoveries that left scientists speechless. Each discovery tells a completely different story. Some reveal mysterious burial rituals. Others have preserved artifacts that seemed impossible to survive for thousands of years. Some tombs help researchers better understand the identities of those who were laid to rest, while other discoveries raise even more questions about human history. What makes these discoveries even more fascinating is that most of these secrets were uncovered purely by chance during recent archaeological excavations, as if the past itself had finally decided to speak after thousands of years of silence. So, what secrets have left archaeologists around the world astonished? What lies hidden behind each artifact, every ancient tomb, and every set of human remains that has only recently come to light? Join me as we begin this incredible journey of discovery. By the end of this video, you may realize that the history of humanity still holds countless mysteries that modern science is working tirelessly to unravel. Now, without making you wait any longer, let's get started. The world's last cursed hand, the artifact. European thieves hunted for centuries. Can you believe that, with nothing more than a shriveled human hand, thieves of the past believed they could slip through the darkness, unlock any door, and even keep an entire household asleep forever? It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, doesn't it? But astonishingly, that artifact still exists today, and anyone can see it with their own eyes in England. You see, this isn't just another strange archaeological relic. It is the embodiment of one of the most chilling legends that haunted Europe for centuries. What's even more remarkable is that the artifact wasn't discovered inside an ancient tomb or buried underground. Instead, it was found by local historian Joseph Ford, hidden inside the wall of a thatched cottage in the village of Castleton, North Yorkshire, England. After its discovery, the artifact was donated to the Whitby Museum in 1935, where it has remained preserved and on public display ever since. In fact, many researchers believe this may be the very last surviving hand of glory in the world. But what could have turned a dried-up human hand into a treasure that thieves were willing to risk everything to possess? According to experts, medieval legends passed down across Europe claim that the hand once belonged to a criminal who had been sentenced to death by hanging. After his execution, his left hand was severed through a series of bizarre rituals to create a magical charm known as the Hand of Glory. At a time when superstition and magic still dominated Europe, thieves believed that simply carrying the Hand of Glory would allow them to see clearly in complete darkness, become invisible to others, unlock any lock no matter how sophisticated, and even leave everyone inside a house completely paralyzed, unable to move or cry out for help. The legends didn't stop there. People also believed that the 5 fingers of the Hand of Glory would burn like 5 eerie candles. If all 5 fingers were lit, it meant everyone inside the house was fast asleep, allowing thieves to carry out their burglary without encountering any resistance. However, if one finger failed to light, it meant something entirely different. It signaled that someone inside the house was still awake, or that there were fewer people inside than the number of fingers on the hand. One legend even claimed that if the thumb refused to burn at all, it was a warning that someone in the house was immune to the hand's supernatural power and capable of fighting back. To thieves of the era, these signs served as a kind of roadmap that could determine whether a burglary would succeed or fail. Even more disturbing was the way the Hand of Glory was supposedly created. According to legend, it had to be the left hand of a convicted criminal executed by hanging, The hand could only be removed on the night of a waning moon while the body was still hanging from the gallows. It was then preserved in salt and subjected to a series of mysterious occult rituals believed to grant it terrifying supernatural powers. Yet people of the past also believed that no form of magic was invincible. To neutralize the Hand of Glory's power, a homeowner had to prepare a special protective charm by coating the doors and windows with a mixture made from the gall of a black cat, the fat of a white hen, and the blood of an owl, applied on the hottest day of the summer. Although these stories are now regarded as little more than folklore, they reveal the deep fears and powerful beliefs people once held about the supernatural world. Interestingly, the very name Hand of Glory is believed to derive from the Old French phrase main de gloire or mandragore, which is connected to the mandrake plant, a legendary herb said to grow beneath the gallows where condemned criminals were hanged. Today, if you ever visit the Whitby Museum in North Yorkshire, England, you can still see this famous shriveled hand for yourself. I think that when standing before this remarkable artifact, many people can't help but wonder, is it nothing more than a superstition that has been embellished over the centuries, or does that small, withered hand still conceal a secret that history has never been able to fully explain? Perhaps that is exactly why the Hand of Glory continues to be regarded as one of the most mysterious and terrifying artifacts ever preserved in museums around the world. The ancient well filled with Roman soldiers' skeletons that shocked the world after nearly 1,800 years of being forgotten. Just imagine this. One day, while preparing the site for an ordinary construction project, you accidentally uncover an ancient well that has been forgotten for nearly 2,000 years. As you look down into the bottom of the well, you see the bodies of 7 men piled on top of one another, each frozen in a haunting position, as though silently telling the story of a horrific tragedy. How would you feel at that moment? Personally, I get chills just thinking about it. I can't even imagine seeing it with my own eyes. And that was exactly how archaeologists felt back in 2011. That year, archaeologists conducted a rescue excavation before the construction of a new university in the city of Osijek, eastern Croatia. In Roman times, the site was the town of Mursa, a strategically important military stronghold of the Roman Empire located near the imperial frontier. During the excavation, the research team uncovered an ancient well that had remained undisturbed for nearly 1,800 years. At first, everyone assumed the bottom of the well would contain nothing more than dirt, rocks, or perhaps a few fragments of ancient pottery. But the deeper they dug, the more they realized they were standing before a discovery that could illuminate a bloody and tragic chapter of history. Buried beneath layers of soil and mud were the remarkably well-preserved skeletal remains of 7 adult men. What immediately caught the experts' attention was the different positions of the skeletons. Some were lying on their sides, others were curled up, and one skeleton was even found upside down with its head pointing toward the bottom of the well, clearly indicating that none of them had received a proper burial. The well had seemingly become an improvised mass grave, where these unfortunate men were thrown after their deaths. According to Mario Novak, a bioarchaeologist at the Institute for Anthropological Research in Zagreb and the study's lead author, it is highly likely that all of the victims were stripped of every valuable possession before their bodies were dumped into the well. Their weapons, armor, jewelry, and anything else of value had disappeared, as if someone had deliberately erased both their identities and their social status. Anthropological analyses later revealed that all 7 individuals were adult males, including 4 young men and 3 middle-aged men. Several of the skeletons still bore evidence of their final battle. One man had suffered severe blunt force trauma to the forehead, another had broken ribs, while others displayed injuries caused by sharp-edged weapons. In addition, scientists discovered evidence suggesting that some of the men may have suffered from respiratory infections shortly before their deaths, reflecting the extremely harsh living conditions endured by soldiers during that period. To establish a more precise date, researchers performed radiocarbon dating on 4 of the skeletons. The results showed that they had all lived during the second half of the 3rd century AD. Interestingly, this dating matched perfectly with the only artifact recovered from the bottom of the well, a Roman coin minted in AD 251. That small coin became the crucial piece of evidence that allowed archaeologists to connect the entire story. Based on the well's location, the dating of the skeletons, and surviving historical records, Experts believe these 7 men were most likely Roman soldiers who fought in the Battle of Mursa in AD 260. The battle was part of a brutal civil war between Emperor Gallienus and the general Ingenuus, who rebelled in an attempt to seize the imperial throne but was ultimately defeated. According to historical accounts, Gallienus dealt with his enemies with extraordinary brutality after his victory. As a result, researchers believe the 7 men at the bottom of the well were likely soldiers or supporters of Ingenuus, who were stripped of all their possessions before being thrown into the well to conceal the aftermath of the conflict. Today, nearly 2,000 years later, that ancient well continues to guard the secrets of men who once fought for what they believed in. Had the 2011 excavation in Osijek never taken place, their fate might have remained buried beneath the earth forever. Thanks to this extraordinary discovery, we now possess another invaluable piece of the historical puzzle, helping us better understand the brutal reality of civil wars within the Roman Empire, where even loyal soldiers could be forgotten by history after a single battle. The 6,000-year-old wooden hand discovered in Russia, a mysterious artifact once used in an ancient ritual. If you came across a finely crafted wooden hand, almost the same size as a real human hand and carved with remarkable attention to detail, who do you think it once belonged to? Was it a work of art, an ordinary everyday object, or perhaps part of a spiritual ritual that disappeared from history thousands of years ago? It's hard to say, isn't it? So let's travel to Russia to uncover the answers to these fascinating questions. There, archaeologists discovered a mysterious wooden hand after it had rested beneath layers of cold peat bogs for more than 6,000 years, bringing with it a host of questions that scientists still have not been able to answer definitively. This extraordinary discovery takes us to the ancient settlement of Cirtea II, located in the marshlands of northwestern Russia. It was here, during an archaeological excavation, that experts from the Hermitage Museum unexpectedly uncovered a truly remarkable wooden artifact. Although the published research does not specify the exact year of the discovery, it was this excavation at Cirtea II that finally brought this rare object to light after thousands of years buried beneath thick layers of peat. Thanks to the peat bog's nearly perfect preservation conditions, the wooden artifact, something that would normally decay over time, has survived to the present day, providing archaeologists with an extraordinary window into the lives of prehistoric people. To understand why this object has remained so well preserved, we need to look back at what Cirtea II was like around 6,000 years ago. As the climate became colder and drier, broadleaf forests gradually disappeared, water sources continued to shrink, and much of the land transformed into vast wetlands. These dramatic environmental changes made food increasingly scarce. To survive, the local people completely adapted their way of life, building stilt houses over the soft peat along the edges of the marshes. Ironically, it was this same layer of peat that became a natural archive, preserving countless organic artifacts that would have almost certainly decomposed elsewhere after thousands of years. Among these remarkable discoveries, the most impressive is this wooden hand, dating from the late 5th millennium BC to the 4th millennium BC during the Neolithic period. Its age alone, approximately 6,000 years old, is enough to make it an extraordinary artifact. However, what amazed archaeologists even more was the craftsmanship displayed by its ancient maker. The hand was carved to nearly the same size as that of an adult human. Upon close examination, experts realized that the artisan had devoted tremendous effort to perfecting every detail. The palm was carefully smoothed and polished, giving it an exceptionally refined appearance. Meanwhile, the back of the hand was decorated with a 7-pointed rosette, a motif that many researchers believe may have symbolized the sun, a star, or perhaps another sacred symbol important to prehistoric communities. The craftsmanship did not stop there. The edges of the artifact were also decorated with deeply carved lines, demonstrating that this was not a hastily made object, but the work of an exceptionally skilled artisan. Yet the more archaeologists studied the artifact, the more mysterious it became. Several fingers and portions of the edges had been damaged in ancient times. More importantly, a crack at the wrist revealed a particularly intriguing clue. According to experts, this wooden hand was not originally a standalone object. Instead, it had once been attached to something much larger. It may have been part of a small statue, a ceremonial staff, or even a ritual mask used during religious ceremonies. Of course, these ideas remain hypotheses, But if they prove to be correct, the significance of this artifact extends far beyond its remarkable craftsmanship. It could offer entirely new insights into the spiritual beliefs, artistic traditions, and religious practices of Neolithic societies. To this day, no one can say with certainty what purpose this wooden hand originally served. One thing, however, is beyond question. The discovery at Certea too demonstrates that our ancestors, thousands of years ago, were not merely surviving in a harsh environment. They also possessed sophisticated artistic abilities, remarkable creativity, and a far richer spiritual life than we once imagined. And who knows, hidden beneath Russia's ancient peat bogs, there may still be other mysterious artifacts waiting to be discovered. Artifacts that could continue telling the unfinished story of a civilization that disappeared 6 millennia ago. What do you think? Do you agree with this possibility, or do you have a different theory? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and discuss them with you. 200 eerie, 1,400-year-old graves discovered beneath a construction site in England left everyone with chills. Do you believe that sometimes an ordinary construction project can unexpectedly open a doorway to a past that vanished more than 1,000 years ago? It may sound impossible, but believe it or not, with just the first few scoops of an excavator, construction workers in England had no idea they were standing above an enormous ancient cemetery. What shocked everyone wasn't just the sheer number of graves that were uncovered, it was the eerie scene inside them. Many of the graves contained no skeletal remains at all. Instead, all that remained were dark human-shaped impressions preserved in the soil, creating such a haunting sight that even seasoned archaeologists were left astonished. The story began when a new residential development was underway in Alton, near the town of Lowestoft in Suffolk, England. While preparing the site, construction workers unexpectedly uncovered numerous ancient burial features. Archaeologists were immediately called in to carry out an emergency excavation. What they discovered left everyone amazed. The team uncovered approximately 200 graves dating back to the 7th century AD, belonging to a 1,400-year-old Anglo-Saxon cemetery. The discovery quickly attracted widespread attention within the archaeological community because of both the cemetery's remarkable size and its exceptional state of preservation. Initial studies revealed that the people buried there included men, women, and children. They were most likely members of the same farming community that once lived in the area. This suggests that the cemetery was not reserved exclusively for nobles or warriors, but instead provides a remarkably complete picture of everyday life in an Anglo-Saxon village more than 1,000 years ago. However, the greatest surprise awaited archaeologists inside the graves themselves. Because the soil is highly acidic, most of the human remains had almost completely decomposed over time. Many skeletons had disappeared without a trace. Yet remarkably, the places where the bodies had once rested remained preserved as dark stains in the soil, known as sand silhouettes. Viewed from above, these dark human-shaped outlines looked like shadowy figures lying motionless beneath the earth, creating a scene that was both mysterious and deeply unsettling. These extraordinary traces allowed archaeologists to determine the exact position and burial posture of each individual, even though the bones themselves had almost entirely vanished. The discoveries did not end there. The human-shaped impressions also revealed another fascinating detail. Traces of wooden coffins had likewise been preserved beneath the ground, showing that some individuals had been buried inside coffins rather than placed directly into the earth. This provided researchers with valuable new insights into Anglo-Saxon burial customs during the 7th century. Alongside the graves, archaeologists also uncovered numerous historically significant artifacts. These included amber beads, glass beads, silver coins, wrist clasps, copper alloy brooches, and small iron knives. Even more remarkably, several graves still contained grave goods such as pottery vessels, swords, iron spearheads, and at least one shield. These artifacts not only demonstrate the craftsmanship of the Anglo-Saxons, but also help researchers better understand the social status, daily lives, and beliefs of the people buried there. Another particularly interesting detail is that the cemetery at Alton lies only about 40 miles from Sutton Hoo, the world-famous Anglo-Saxon royal burial site. As many of you may know, Sutton Hoo has long been celebrated for its lavish burials filled with jewelry, priceless treasures, and most famously, its spectacular buried ship. Because of the relatively short distance between the two sites, Researchers hope that comparing them will provide valuable insights into the differences between ordinary villagers and the Anglo-Saxon elite. As soon as archaeologists recognized the extraordinary significance of the discovery, the entire site was secured for extensive excavation, documentation, and detailed scientific study. Every grave and every artifact was carefully recorded and preserved in order to protect as much information as possible from the passage of time. In the future, the artifacts recovered from this cemetery will be conserved and displayed in local museums, giving the public an opportunity to learn more about a community that disappeared from history nearly 14 centuries ago. Without question, the discovery at Alton proves that beneath today's roads, fields, and modern neighborhoods, countless secrets of the past still lie waiting to be uncovered. Sometimes, removing just a thin layer of earth is enough to bring an entire ancient community back into history, allowing its people to tell their story once again after nearly 1,400 years of silence. It's truly almost unbelievable, isn't it? 7,000-year-old skeleton discovered wearing a garment decorated with 158 shells and red deer teeth. My dear friends, did you know that around 7,000 years ago, when there were no modern machines, no metal tools, and no clothing workshops like those we have today, what kind of clothing did people wear when they were being sent off on their final journey? Were they simply dressed in rough animal skins, or had they already learned how to create sophisticated garments with special meanings? That is truly a difficult question, isn't it? But archaeology is fascinating. There are mysteries that seem impossible to answer, yet discoveries can sometimes reveal the truth in the most unexpected ways. A remarkable archaeological discovery in France is clear evidence of this. The story began during an archaeological excavation in the city of Avignon, southern France, where experts from Bordeaux-Montaigne University unexpectedly discovered an ancient burial site dating back approximately 7,000 years. Although the scientific report did not specify the exact year of the discovery, the moment the grave was uncovered, it immediately attracted special attention from archaeologists because of its rare level of preservation and the secrets hidden within. And indeed, when the grave was opened, researchers discovered the remains of an adult man. Through analysis of the bones, they estimated that he had died between the ages of 20 and 50 and had a height of approximately 5 feet 6 inches. However, what amazed experts was not only the skeleton itself, but also the remaining traces of the clothing the man wore during his burial ceremony 7 millennia ago. Because most organic materials had decomposed over time, determining the original appearance of the garment seemed almost impossible. However, thanks to advances in modern archaeological technology, the research team used 3D laser scanning techniques along with various advanced analytical methods to reconstruct the design of this ancient outfit. The results left everyone amazed. Experts discovered that the man's clothing was far more sophisticated than previously imagined. It had been carefully decorated with 158 red Columbella rustica shells combined with 16 red deer canine teeth. Each shell and each tooth had been deliberately arranged, forming intricate decorative patterns across the garment. This reveals that people living 7,000 years ago were not only capable of creating clothing, but also possessed remarkable craftsmanship and an extraordinary sense of aesthetics. Archaeologists believe that the use of such a large number of shells and red deer teeth was not simply for decoration. In many prehistoric cultures, rare natural materials like these often carried symbolic meanings related to social status, beliefs, or spiritual ceremonies. Because of this, the man buried in this grave may have held a special position within his community. Although there is currently not enough evidence to determine exactly who he was, one thing is certain: this extraordinary garment was not something that just anyone in that society could have possessed. Nevertheless, time has left behind many unanswered questions that science has not yet been able to solve. Most of the man's body is no longer intact. His skull, much of both legs, and both hands disappeared after thousands of years beneath the ground. This has allowed researchers to reconstruct only part of the appearance of the deceased. Yet even what remains has been enough to open a new window into our understanding of life, burial customs, and the craftsmanship of people during the Neolithic period. Therefore, saying that the discovery at Avignon is not merely the discovery of an ancient grave would not be an exaggeration. It also proves that thousands of years ago, humans already knew how to express respect, beliefs, and cultural identity through even the smallest details of the clothing placed on their dead. And that, my friends, is truly an extraordinary discovery. 5 completely preserved loaves of bread, after 1,300 years, revealing the faith of an ancient city. Imagine this. Is there any type of food in the world that could survive for more than 1,300 years while still maintaining an almost completely recognizable shape? Many people would probably say that such a thing is impossible, especially when it comes to bread, right? Because we all know that an ordinary loaf of bread only takes a few days to become dry and hard, and after several weeks it would completely decay. So how could it possibly survive for more than 1,000 years? But believe it or not, something that seems impossible actually happened. And what makes this discovery even more extraordinary is that these ancient loaves preserved images of Jesus Christ along with incredibly valuable religious symbols, leaving even archaeologists amazed. The story begins at the archaeological site of Toprak-Tepe, located in what is now modern-day Turkey, where the ancient city of Iranopolis once stood. During archaeological excavations at this location, experts made a completely unexpected discovery when they uncovered 5 loaves of bread dating back approximately 1,300 years. According to analysis results, these 5 loaves were made sometime during the 7th or 8th century AD. What shocked everyone was that after more than a millennium, they still retained an almost intact shape. The secret behind their survival lies in a natural process known as carbonization. According to researchers, at some point in the past, the bread was exposed to high temperatures during a certain event, causing the outer layer to burn and turn into carbon. Surprisingly, this thin layer of carbon unintentionally created a natural protective shield, preventing oxygen from reaching the inside and allowing the loaves to survive for hundreds of generations without completely decomposing. However, the importance of this discovery does not only come from the age of the bread. When archaeologists carefully examined the surfaces, they discovered that most of the loaves had been marked with the Maltese cross, a symbol commonly found in early Christian art. This suggests that these loaves were not simply made for eating, but carried a very special religious meaning. Even more remarkable, one of the 5 loaves still preserved an image of Jesus Christ, along with an ancient Greek inscription that reads, "We give thanks to the Lord Jesus." This detail especially excited researchers because finding an image of Jesus preserved on a loaf of bread more than 1,300 years old is an extremely rare discovery. Not only that, the depiction of Jesus on this bread is also different from the images commonly seen in Christian art. Instead of appearing as a powerful, majestic, or divine figure, Jesus on this loaf is portrayed in a much more familiar and humble way. Researchers refer to this image as Jesus the sower, or Jesus of the farmers. This representation reflects the close connection between faith and labor, while also showing the important role of agriculture in the daily lives of the people of Iranopolis at that time. More than 1,300 years ago, this area was once an important agricultural center of the region. Through the remaining marks on the surface of the bread, archaeologists can also partially reconstruct how these loaves were created. After carefully preparing the dough, ancient bakers used molds or special tools to imprint crosses, images of Jesus Christ, and inscriptions onto the surface of the bread before baking them. This reveals that these loaves were not quickly made ordinary products, but were carefully prepared objects carrying sacred meaning for the community. Based on archaeological evidence and historical context, experts believe these were most likely sacramental breads used during Christian Eucharistic ceremonies. These small loaves were not merely food used in religious rituals. They also reflected the deep faith of the people of Iranopolis and their devotion to their beliefs. They became a remarkable testament to the important role Christianity played in the spiritual life of this community more than 13 centuries ago. It can be said that the discovery at Toprak-Tepe shows us that archaeology is not only about finding magnificent palaces or treasures made of gold and silver. Sometimes, even something as simple as a loaf of bread can preserve an entire story about the culture, beliefs, and daily lives of people from the past. And after lying silently beneath the earth for more than 1,300 years, these 5 loaves are still telling the story of an ancient city where faith and everyday life were once connected in a way that was incredibly simple, yet deeply sacred. The nearly intact, 4,000-year-old boat, revealing the secrets of ancient Mesopotamia in Iraq. The world of archaeology is truly fascinating. Some artifacts remain hidden in the darkness of history, leaving mysteries that can never be fully answered. But there are also discoveries that, the moment they appear, are powerful enough to rewrite an entire chapter of ancient history. It was not a golden treasure, nor a magnificent palace. This time, what excited archaeologists around the world was simply a boat made from reeds and palm leaves. At first glance, it may sound ordinary, right? But what makes this discovery extraordinary is that this ancient boat had remained buried beneath layers of sand for approximately 4,000 years, while still preserving its shape almost completely intact. Even more importantly, it was discovered in the very land once known as the cradle of human civilization. Could this boat have carried goods across ancient rivers? Was it used to transport people from one place to another? Or does it hold even greater secrets about the life of one of the most legendary civilizations in human history? Join me as we travel back in time to explore this remarkable discovery that has captured the attention of archaeologists around the world. The story takes place at the ancient settlement of Uruk, located in modern-day Iraq. During an archaeological excavation conducted by the Iraqi Department of Antiquities, archaeologists unexpectedly discovered an ancient boat partially buried beneath the sand. With an estimated age of around 4,000 years, this boat is considered one of the very few ancient organic material vessels to have survived until today. To understand why this discovery is so important, we need to look back at the history of Uruk. According to ancient records, the city was founded by King Enmerkar around 4,500 BC. During its peak, Uruk was not only the largest city in southern Mesopotamia, but was also considered by many scholars to be one of the largest urban centers in the world at that time. It was the heart of a civilization that laid the foundation for many important achievements of humanity, from the development of the first cities to the creation of writing systems and organized social administration. Uruk was located between the two famous rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, in the region of Mesopotamia, an area that historians have long called the cradle of civilization. Because of this, every archaeological discovery made here carries extraordinary value, helping scientists better understand how ancient people lived, traded, and built their societies thousands of years ago. During the excavation, experts discovered the boat partially exposed beneath the sand. At first glance, the artifact appeared extremely fragile, as if the slightest touch could cause it to collapse. However, what amazed everyone was that the vessel had survived in remarkable condition after approximately 4 millennia. It was almost a complete boat, which is incredibly rare for artifacts made from organic materials. Through initial research, archaeologists determined that the boat was primarily constructed from reeds and palm leaves, materials that were widely available in ancient Mesopotamia. It was the unusual burial conditions beneath dry sand over a very long period that allowed the boat's components to survive far better than researchers had expected. The artifact measured approximately 23 feet long and about 4.6 feet wide, indicating that it was large enough to transport people or goods along the waterways of that era. For researchers, the importance of this boat does not only come from its 4,000-year-old age. It also serves as direct evidence of the shipbuilding skills, the use of natural materials, and the ability of ancient Mesopotamian people to utilize their river systems. With the Tigris and Euphrates rivers serving as the lifelines of the entire region, boats like this likely played an important role in encouraging trade, connecting cities, and helping Mesopotamian civilization flourish. Recognizing the artifact's exceptional value, Iraqi authorities quickly carried out preservation measures according to the Iraqi antiquities law. After excavation, the boat was transferred to the Iraq Museum in Baghdad, the nation's capital, where it continued to undergo scientific research, conservation, and restoration to ensure that this remarkable artifact could be preserved for future generations. It can be said that every discovery at Uruk is like another missing piece, slowly completing the picture of humanity's first civilizations. And this 4,000-year-old boat is no exception. It is not merely an ancient means of transportation. It is a silent witness to a remarkable era when humans began building the first cities, expanding trade networks, and laying the foundations for the civilizations that would follow. So, if you ever have the opportunity to visit Baghdad, Iraq, be sure to stop by the museum and see this incredible 4,000-year-old boat with your own eyes. 6th century young warrior's grave, buried with 2 dogs and grave goods, reveals his extraordinary identity. Have you ever noticed that sometimes a single ancient grave can tell an entire story that history never recorded? There are people who lived more than 1,000 years before us, yet their names never appeared in any historical record. However, the objects buried alongside them have become messages sent from the past to future generations. And this time, what shocked archaeologists was not gold, silver, or a rare treasure, but an incredibly unusual discovery. A young warrior buried with a spear, a horse bridle, and most remarkably, 2 dogs lying beside him. So why were these animals buried with their owner? Were they simply sacrifices, or had they been loyal companions who followed the warrior even into the afterlife? To find the answer, we need to return to the location where this extraordinary discovery was made. The discovery took place during an archaeological excavation near the town of Pasilovki, located in the Brno country district of the South Moravian region, Czech Republic. While studying this area, experts from the Czech Academy of Sciences unexpectedly uncovered an ancient grave. Inside the burial site were the nearly intact remains of a young warrior, dated to approximately the 6th century AD, around 1,500 years ago. The fact that the skeleton itself was still well preserved was already extremely valuable for researchers. However, what truly amazed everyone was what had been buried alongside this young man. Experts revealed that right beside the remains was a spear, a familiar symbol of warrior status during that era. But this was not the most extraordinary detail. Archaeologists also discovered the remains of 2 dogs buried together with the deceased. In addition, the grave contained a horse bridle, suggesting that this man was likely a mounted warrior or had a close connection to cavalry. You see, around 1,500 years ago, burying animals with the dead was not something practiced for everyone. The simple fact that 2 dogs were buried alongside their owner was enough to raise many questions among archaeologists. Were these loyal animals that had accompanied the warrior during battles, or, according to ancient beliefs, were they meant to continue accompanying and protecting their master in the world beyond? At this point, there is still no definite answer, but these unanswered questions are exactly what make this grave even more fascinating. Importantly, the research team didn't stop at documenting the artifacts. They also carried out a series of advanced scientific analyses to uncover the true identity and background of this young warrior. These methods included ancient DNA analysis to investigate his genetic origins, strontium isotope analysis to determine where he grew up and lived, as well as carbon and nitrogen isotope analysis to reconstruct his diet throughout his lifetime. These advanced techniques may help scientists answer several important questions. Was this warrior a native inhabitant of the South Moravian region, or did he come from somewhere else? Which tribe did he serve? And what was the true cause of his death? Each new research result could provide important pieces of information about life in Europe during the 6th century, a period marked by major historical changes following the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. Graves like this do more than reveal burial customs. They also reflect social status, military traditions, and spiritual beliefs of people who lived in the distant past. It can be said that the discovery near Pasilovki has opened another window into the world of warriors who lived around 1,500 years ago. Although time has erased the name of this young man, his spear, horse bridle, and especially the 2 loyal dogs continue to silently tell the story of someone who once lived, fought, and was honored with a truly unique burial ceremony. Perhaps when the DNA and isotope analysis results are completed, we will uncover even more surprising secrets about the true identity of this young warrior and the world he once lived in. So until then, let us wait and see what mysteries the future discoveries will reveal. The 3,000-year-old limestone sarcophagus of an Egyptian high priest contained strange artifacts that amazed experts. My friend, imagine discovering an ancient Egyptian sarcophagus that had remained unopened for thousands of years, suddenly appearing before the eyes of archaeologists. What do you think would be inside? Many people would probably imagine gold, precious treasures, a mummy, or perhaps mysterious curses like those often shown in movies. But what you may not know is that reality can sometimes be far more fascinating than imagination. Because during a recent excavation in Egypt, when the heavy lid of a limestone sarcophagus was carefully opened, experts discovered a series of unusual artifacts hidden inside, each with different shapes and meanings. From protective amulets and small statues to an extremely rare golden artifact, Every discovery revealed the incredibly complex spiritual world of ancient Egyptians approximately 3,000 years ago. The discovery took place at the archaeological site of Al-Gharafa, located in Tuna el-Gebel, Minya Governorate, Egypt. During excavations in this area, experts from Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities unexpectedly uncovered a remarkably special ancient burial site. Based on inscriptions and archaeological evidence, researchers identified the tomb as belonging to Jehudi Imhotep, a high priest who served the god Jehudi, the deity associated with wisdom, knowledge, and writing in ancient Egyptian beliefs. The tomb was constructed during the 26th dynasty, dating back approximately 3,000 years, a period when Egyptian burial rituals had developed into highly sophisticated ceremonies filled with symbolism. The first thing that impressed researchers was the priest's limestone sarcophagus. After thousands of years buried underground, the surface of the sarcophagus still preserved vividly painted reliefs. These carvings depicted the four sons of the god Horus, divine figures believed to protect the internal organs of the deceased and guide them during their journey into the afterlife. The remarkable preservation of these images alone was enough for archaeologists to consider this discovery extremely valuable. However, the true surprises only began when experts explored the inside of the burial chamber. Beside the priest were numerous Ushabti figurines in various shapes and forms. According to ancient Egyptian beliefs, these small statues would become servants who would work for their owner after entering the afterlife. This reveals that Egyptians believed life continued after death, and the deceased would still require assistance just as they had during their earthly existence. But the discoveries did not end there. The excavation team also uncovered a large collection of protective amulets and scarab figurines with an incredible variety of designs and shapes. According to Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities and the leader of the excavation team, many of the amulets were crafted in the shape of hearts, while others featured the heads of the goddess Hathor, the four sons of Horus, or winged amulets symbolizing protection and rebirth. Among the artifacts, scarabs appeared in many different sizes and styles. These objects held a particularly important role in ancient Egyptian culture, representing resurrection, renewal, and the eternal cycle of life. However, the artifact that surprised archaeologists the most was a winged cobra crafted from pure gold. This object was extremely rare, not only because of its precious material, but also because of its powerful symbolic meaning in Egyptian beliefs. In ancient Egypt, the cobra was often associated with royal authority, divine protection, and supernatural power. It is clear that every artifact placed inside this tomb was not chosen randomly. Each object reflected the deep faith of ancient Egyptians in the afterlife, while also demonstrating the extremely high status of the high priest Jehudi Imhotep within his society. These amulets, Ushabti statues, and sacred symbols were believed to protect him during his journey into the eternal world. After approximately 3,000 years resting beneath the earth, the tomb at Al-Gharafa has provided archaeologists with an invaluable collection of information about the beliefs, art, and burial traditions of ancient Egyptian civilization. And perhaps beneath the vast deserts of modern-day Egypt, many more undiscovered tombs are still waiting to be found, continuing to reveal the secrets that time has hidden for thousands of years. 3. 2,000-year-old graves reveal the chilling secret of sacrificed Celtic girls. What would you think if I told you that simply by studying the way a skeleton had lain beneath the ground for more than 2,000 years, archaeologists could trace the evidence of a human sacrifice or even a murder that took place before the Roman conquest? Sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? It almost feels like the plot of an ancient detective movie. But astonishingly, this is a true story that scientists have recently uncovered in England. What makes the discovery even more remarkable is that it wasn't just one unusual grave, it was three, each sharing an astonishing number of similarities. Every skeleton was found in an abnormal position, buried without grave goods, leaving experts with one haunting question. Could these be evidence of horrifying sacrificial rituals carried out more than 2 millennia ago? To answer that question, let's travel back to the beginning of this year. While archaeologists from Bournemouth University were excavating a Celtic archaeological site in Dorset, southern England, the research team unexpectedly uncovered the approximately 2,000-year-old skeleton of a young individual lying face down at the bottom of a pit. From the very first glance, the experts realized this was anything but a normal burial. And they were right. After careful examination and analysis, archaeologist Miles Russell, who is directly involved in the project, explained that the position of the skeleton suggests the individual was thrown into the pit rather than carefully laid to rest. Both arms appeared to have been tightly bound behind the back, making the possibility of a violent death increasingly difficult to ignore. Based on the skeletal characteristics, the research team believes the victim was most likely a teenage girl, although DNA analysis has not yet been completed to confirm the individual's sex with certainty. What made archaeologists even more suspicious was the complete absence of grave goods. As you probably know, many ancient cultures buried their dead with possessions they believed would be useful in the afterlife. Here, however, the deceased was simply left face down at the bottom of the pit in an extremely unusual position. When researchers combined all the evidence, the body's position, the signs of restraint, and the crude manner of burial, they proposed that the girl may have been a sacrificial victim of the Durotriges, a Celtic tribe that inhabited southern England during the Iron Age before the Romans conquered the region. But the most disturbing part is that she was not the only case. If there had been only one unusual grave, it might have been dismissed as an isolated incident. But during the same archaeological project, experts uncovered 2 additional skeletons displaying remarkably similar characteristics. One skeleton, excavated in 2024, was also found lying face down. The other, discovered in 2010, belonged to a young woman who had apparently died after her throat was cut. 3 discoveries made at different times, yet sharing so many striking similarities, prompted scientists to begin viewing the evidence from an entirely new perspective. All 3 graves were excavated as part of the Durotriges project conducted by Bournemouth University. This large-scale research program investigates Celtic settlements in southern England before the Roman Empire arrived in the region. According to the archaeological evidence, the cemetery containing the 3 graves dates from the early to mid-1st century BC, roughly 100 years before the Romans officially conquered southern England. The investigation did not end with the excavations. Scientists also performed DNA analysis on numerous skeletons recovered through the Durotriges project. The findings, published earlier this year, revealed something particularly fascinating. Genetic evidence suggests that Durotriges society may have been organized along maternal family lines, meaning men moved into their wives' communities after marriage. Remarkably, this closely matches descriptions of Celtic society recorded by Roman writers more than 2,000 years ago. However, the same study also led researchers to a more unsettling hypothesis. After analyzing the 3 unusual graves, they concluded that women and young girls appear to have been the individuals most frequently selected as sacrificial victims. They may have belonged to the lower ranks of society, lacked family ties to powerful lineages, or come from outside the community, making them people who were considered disposable during communal rituals. According to archaeologist Miles Russell, the repeated discovery of individuals showing signs consistent with ritual sacrifice suggests that this terrifying practice may have been far more widespread than scientists had previously believed. Even so, experts still cannot determine exactly what drove these rituals. Was it religious belief, political instability, famine, climate change, or some other form of social crisis? Perhaps the answer is still hidden somewhere beneath the soil of England, waiting for future excavations to uncover the remaining fragments of a civilization that disappeared more than 2,000 years ago. What do you think? Do you have your own explanation for this mystery? If so, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and discuss it together. The skeleton of a noble woman, buried with a donkey in an ancient Chinese tomb. You know, the world of archaeology is truly fascinating, especially when it comes to ancient tombs. Some tombs astonish archaeologists because they are filled with gold, silver, and priceless treasures. Others become famous for their invaluable artifacts or the mysteries they have yet to reveal. But every now and then, a discovery stops the entire scientific community in its tracks because of something as simple as the skeleton of an animal. It sounds hard to believe, doesn't it? Yet sometimes the smallest detail becomes the key to unlocking an entire chapter of history that has been forgotten for more than 1,000 years. And the tomb we're about to explore is a perfect example. The story begins in 2012, when archaeologists were excavating an ancient cemetery in the city of Xi'an, Shanxi Province, China. During the excavation, they uncovered the tomb of Kui Shi, a noblewoman who lived during the Tang dynasty. At first, there seemed to be nothing particularly unusual about the burial compared to many other aristocratic tombs that had already been discovered. But as the excavation continued, the research team made a completely unexpected discovery that left everyone astonished. Inside the tomb, alongside the remains of the noblewoman, they found the bones of a donkey buried with her. Think about it for a moment. If it had been a war horse, a chariot, or valuable treasures, no one would have found it surprising. But why a donkey? During the Tang dynasty, donkeys were never considered symbols of status or power. On the contrary, they were viewed primarily as working animals and ranked far below horses in social prestige. For that reason, the discovery of a noblewoman buried with a donkey immediately became a major mystery for archaeologists. According to Song-Mei Hu, a researcher at the Shanxi Academy of Archaeology and the lead author of the study, this was the first time archaeologists had ever discovered a tomb featuring such an unusual form of burial. She explained that there was virtually no reason for an aristocratic woman like Kui Shi to use a donkey in her everyday life, let alone take one with her into the afterlife. This extraordinary detail motivated researchers to begin a lengthy investigation in search of an explanation. After comparing historical records, analyzing the skeletal remains, and examining the social context of the Tang dynasty, the researchers gradually arrived at a fascinating conclusion. They believed the donkey was not buried with her by chance. It was most likely her companion in her favorite sport. According to the research team's hypothesis, Kui Shi may have regularly ridden donkeys to play polo. After her death, her family buried the animal alongside her so she could continue enjoying the sport in the next world. At this point, many of you are probably wondering, isn't polo supposed to be played on horseback? Yes, it certainly is. Historical texts from the Tang dynasty show that the aristocracy was especially fond of horseback polo. It was far more than entertainment. It was regarded as a display of skill, courage, and exceptional horsemanship. However, polo played on horseback was also extremely dangerous because of its high speeds and violent collisions. As a result, the Tang aristocracy developed another version of the sport known as levju, also called donkey polo. Instead of riding large, difficult-to-control horses, players rode donkeys. Although donkeys were slower than horses, they had a steadier gait, better balance, and were significantly safer, particularly for women of the noble class. This explanation became even more convincing when researchers examined Kui Shi's family background. Her husband, Bao Gao, was a famous general who served under Emperor Shizong of Tang. He was highly favored by the emperor because of his extraordinary polo skills. At that time, emperors even regarded polo ability as an important measure of a general's overall competence, since the sport demanded quick reflexes, sharp observation, and exceptional horsemanship. Unfortunately, even an experienced polo player like Bao Gao could not escape the dangers of the game. According to historical records, he lost one of his eyes after a horseback polo match. That accident illustrates just how dangerous the sport could be and also helps explain why the Tang nobility chose donkeys as a safer alternative for women's matches. They were slower, more stable, and greatly reduced the risk of serious injury. Isn't it remarkable? From just a few donkey bones resting quietly inside a tomb more than 1,200 years old, archaeologists were able to reconstruct a vivid glimpse into the daily lives of the Tang dynasty's aristocracy. Fascinating, isn't it? So it is no exaggeration to say that this discovery not only sheds light on a remarkably rare burial custom, but also reveals a little-known aspect of polo and the important role women played in ancient Chinese society. The mysterious, nearly 4,000-year-old mummy, hidden inside an Egyptian cliff. Imagine standing one day in the vast Egyptian desert, surrounded by towering cliffs that have remained silent for thousands of years. Would you believe that hidden behind those barren rock walls, there could still be a coffin that had never been opened? And even more terrifying, when that coffin was finally uncovered, what lay inside was enough to send chills down the spines of even the most experienced archaeologists. This is no longer the stuff of imagination. It is one of the strangest and most unforgettable archaeological discoveries announced in recent years, revealing yet another mystery of ancient Egyptian civilization. The story began in 2019 in Aswan, the historic city along the Nile River in southern Egypt. While excavating an ancient cemetery carved into the rocky cliffs, an archaeological team led by Dr. Martina Bardanova unexpectedly discovered a terracotta coffin hidden deep inside the rock face. Originally, the team had simply been conducting research into the reign of Pharaoh Hatshepsut, the first woman to rule Egypt, from approximately 1479 BC to 1458 BC. However, no one could have imagined that this expedition would lead to such a completely unexpected discovery. To reach the burial site, the archaeologists found themselves racing against time as a massive sandstorm from the Sahara Desert rapidly approached. Even a journey of only about 220 yards became extremely dangerous, with powerful wind gusts relentlessly striking their faces and making movement nearly impossible. Despite the harsh conditions, the team successfully reached the burial chamber and began opening the coffin, which had rested undisturbed for thousands of years. As the heavy lid was finally lifted, everyone on the team seemed to hold their breath. Inside was not a carefully wrapped mummy like those commonly found in ancient Egyptian tombs. Instead, they discovered human remains in an extraordinarily unusual condition. According to Dr. Martina Bardanova, the coffin itself looked terrifying, while the body inside appeared to have been placed there in a very careless manner without undergoing the famous traditional Egyptian mummification process. This unusual discovery immediately prompted experts to begin a detailed investigation. The Channel 4 documentary Secrets of Egypt's Valley of the Kings captured the entire dramatic excavation. After removing the black material surrounding the skeletal remains, biological anthropologist Dr. Miguel Cecilio Botella Lopez carefully examined every detail of the skeleton, hoping to determine the individual's identity as well as how the deceased had been prepared for the afterlife. The results quickly astonished the entire archaeological team. According to Dr. Botella, the skeleton belonged to a woman, and the most shocking finding was that she was estimated to have been over 70 years old when she died. Do you realize just how extraordinary that is? In ancient Egypt, average life expectancy was extremely low because of high infant mortality, widespread disease, infections, and the dangers of childbirth. Those who survived childhood generally lived only about 25 years on average. Therefore, discovering a woman who lived beyond the age of 70 nearly 4,000 years ago is an exceptionally rare find that amazed the archaeological community. Even Dr. Martina admitted she was stunned by the discovery. According to her, finding someone who had lived to such an advanced age in ancient Egyptian society raises many new questions about social status, living conditions, and medical knowledge during that period. The discovery becomes even more remarkable when compared with Pharaoh Tutankhamun, one of ancient Egypt's most famous rulers, who is believed to have died at only about 18 years of age. Think about it. A coffin hidden inside a cliff, a body buried in a completely unconventional way, and a woman who lived far beyond the average lifespan of an entire civilization. Together, these elements have made this one of the most fascinating archaeological mysteries ever uncovered in Egypt. And perhaps as excavations continue beneath the scorching sands of the desert, countless other secrets that have remained hidden for thousands of years are still waiting to be discovered. What do you think? Could there be even more incredible mysteries still buried beneath the sands of Egypt? 2,300-year-old tomb, unexpectedly discovered beneath a drainage system. Have you ever imagined that an ordinary drainage construction project could lead to a discovery that would send shockwaves through the archaeological world? It sounds almost unbelievable, doesn't it? Yet that is exactly what happened in Italy not long ago. After just a few passes of an excavator, beneath soil that had seemed completely ordinary for thousands of years, an unexpected doorway into the past was opened. What appeared before the construction workers was not a pipeline or ordinary bedrock, but an ancient tomb more than 2,300 years old, one that had preserved remarkable traces of a civilization that disappeared long ago. The discovery occurred during the installation of a new drainage system in the town of Manduria, in the Puglia region of southern Italy. As soon as workers noticed unusual stone structures beneath the ground, they immediately alerted local authorities. Within days, archaeologists arrived at the site and confirmed that the tomb dated to approximately the 4th century BC, around 2,300 years ago, and belonged to the Messapian civilization, a culture that flourished in southern Italy before the Roman Empire took control of the region. As the excavation progressed, experts realized they were looking at far more than an ordinary burial. Instead, they had uncovered a carefully designed funerary complex. According to local officials, the tomb was divided into two separate chambers featuring architectural elements strongly influenced by the Hellenistic period. At the entrance, archaeologists could still clearly see sections of wall coated with vivid red plaster, crossed by a horizontal white band that created a striking visual contrast. Even after lying underground for more than 2,000 years, these decorative details demonstrate the tremendous effort the ancient builders invested in creating a final resting place for the deceased. The discoveries became even more exciting when the team found numerous artifacts that had survived in remarkably intact condition. Among them were valuable ceramic objects, including water jars, oil lamps, perfume containers, and beautifully crafted plates. All of them date to the 4th century BC, providing archaeologists with valuable insight into the daily lives and burial customs of the Messapian people. The entrance to the burial chamber was also decorated with a 2-panel doorway coated in bright red plaster. During the excavation, researchers recovered numerous fragments of decorative plaster that had once covered the walls, proving that the interior had originally been richly painted and carefully ornamented. Even more intriguing, along the southern wall of the burial chamber, archaeologists discovered 4 rectangular recesses positioned near the floor. Their preliminary interpretation suggests these niches likely supported a funerary bed used during burial ceremonies, a practice that was fairly common among certain ancient communities throughout the Mediterranean region. However, as the investigation continued, archaeologists uncovered a rather unfortunate truth. Marks on the walls revealed that the tomb had already been looted during ancient times. Treasure hunters likely broke through the walls to gain access to neighboring tombs in hopes of finding valuable artifacts. Not far from the first burial, the team discovered a second tomb that remained sealed. Yet when they opened it, they found almost no grave goods, indicating that this tomb had also been visited by looters thousands of years ago. Even so, within the fill soil inside the second tomb, archaeologists recovered an extremely important artifact, a Roman Republican denarius. The coin provides evidence that the burial complex continued to be used, or at least visited, during the Roman period, opening new avenues of research into the long history of the Manduria region. To preserve this remarkable archaeological site, local authorities announced that they are creating a complete digital 3D model of the tomb complex. This technology will not only help researchers study every architectural detail, but will also allow future visitors to explore the tomb virtually without disturbing the fragile remains. According to the experts, the excavation has provided invaluable information that sheds new light on the burial rituals practiced by the Messapian community in Manduria during the Hellenistic era. Notably, this discovery is just one in a remarkable series of archaeological finds made across Italy in recent years. Last summer, archaeologists uncovered 3 structures on the island of Sardinia that local residents affectionately nicknamed the fairy houses. In reality, however, they turned out to be ancient tombs. Around the same time, an Etruscan tomb located about 30 miles north of Rome was excavated in an almost perfectly preserved condition, having never been disturbed by ancient grave robbers. Together, these remarkable discoveries suggest that beneath the soil of Italy, countless secrets of ancient civilizations are still patiently waiting to be uncovered. Hopefully, archaeologists will continue bringing us even more fascinating discoveries in the years ahead. Until then, let's wait and see what incredible secrets the past still has left to reveal. The world's oldest mummies may have appeared in Southeast Asia 12,000 years ago. Dear friends, when we think of mummies, most of us probably immediately picture the famous Egyptian pharaohs, with their golden coffins, massive pyramids, and sophisticated mummification techniques that existed for thousands of years. However, did you know that a recent scientific study has proposed a hypothesis that could completely change what we previously understood about the history of human mummification? According to this theory, the world's oldest mummies may not have originated in Egypt nor in South America, but may instead have been discovered right in Southeast Asia. The story began when an international team of scientists published their research findings in the prestigious scientific journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. By analyzing numerous ancient human remains excavated from China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia, the research team discovered a series of unusual marks on prehistoric human bones. What makes these findings particularly interesting is that many of the skeletons were buried in crouched or squatting positions, while their bones also showed cut marks and signs of burning caused by exposure to high temperatures. These seemingly small details led archaeologists to propose a bold hypothesis. According to them, these deceased individuals may not have been buried immediately after death. Instead, their bodies may have first been heated and dried through smoke and fire in order to slow down the process of decomposition. In other words, this could represent a primitive form of mummification practiced by humans tens of thousands of years ago. What truly shocked the scientific community was the age of these remains. Some specimens are believed to be approximately 12,000 years old, making them far older than the famous mummies we commonly discuss today. If future research continues to confirm these findings, Southeast Asia could become the home of the oldest artificially created mummies ever discovered in human history. According to Hirofumi Matsumura, a researcher from Sapporo Medical University in Japan and the lead author of the study, smoking human remains was not simply a method of preserving the bodies of the dead. He believes the ritual also carried a deeply spiritual meaning, allowing people to maintain a connection between the living and their ancestors, like a bridge connecting memories, time, and generations within a community. In reality, mummification is not unfamiliar in human history. Many mummies form naturally because of special environmental conditions that prevented decomposition. Additionally, numerous civilizations intentionally preserved bodies as a way of showing respect or preparing the deceased for their journey into the afterlife. Egypt remains the most famous example of advanced mummification techniques. However, before this study, the oldest known artificially created mummies belonged to the Chinchorro fishing communities, who lived in what is now Peru and Chile, dating back approximately 7,000 years. Even today, some indigenous communities in Australia and Papua New Guinea continue traditions of smoking and preserving the bodies of deceased relatives. Nevertheless, not all experts fully agree with this new conclusion. Rita Peroteo-Stierna, a specialist in human evolution at Uppsala University in Sweden, argues that more evidence is still needed to confirm this hypothesis. According to her, the dating methods used on some of the samples may not yet be reliable enough, and researchers cannot definitively conclude that body smoking practices were consistently carried out throughout prehistoric Southeast Asia. Although many questions remain, Rita still considers the research an extremely important contribution to the study of prehistoric human burial practices. And as you can see, this is exactly what makes archaeology so fascinating. From only a few burned marks on bones that have rested silently for tens of thousands of years, scientists can gradually uncover an entirely new chapter in human history. Who knows? Deep beneath the soil of Southeast Asia, countless undiscovered secrets may still be waiting to come to light. Secrets that could one day force the entire world to rethink the origins of ancient civilizations. It is certainly possible, isn't it? Roman noble tomb reveals treasures and secrets buried for 1,700 years. You know, history is sometimes not written on the pages of books, but hidden beneath layers of soil that have remained untouched for thousands of years. With just one excavation carried out in the right place at the right time, an entire story about a person, a civilization, or even a historical period that seemed to have disappeared can suddenly come back to life. And the discovery we are about to explore is one of the clearest examples of this. Archaeologists did not simply uncover an ancient tomb, they opened a doorway into the luxurious life of the powerful elite of the Roman Empire nearly 1,700 years ago. This remarkable discovery was announced after an excavation near the village of Strixan, located in the Diber region of Albania. During their survey of the area, archaeologists discovered the first Roman elite tomb ever found in Albania, dating back to approximately the 3rd to 4th centuries AD. As soon as the first layers of soil were carefully removed, experts realized they were standing before a structure completely different from any ordinary burial site previously known in the Balkan region. Under the direction of archaeologist Erikson Nikoli from the Institute of Archaeology of Albania, the research team excavated the entire tomb complex, which measured approximately 30 feet long and 20 feet wide. The structure was built from enormous limestone blocks carefully assembled together, creating an extremely strong and durable construction. What particularly caught the attention of the researchers was that many of these stone blocks still preserved ancient inscriptions carved in Greek. At that moment, the experts understood that this discovery could hold far greater significance than just another ancient tomb. And then, one of the most important discoveries was made. Among the stone blocks, the archaeological team found an extremely rare bilingual inscription. This text allowed them to identify the owner of the tomb as Gelliano, a name strongly associated with the Roman period. But that was not all. Inside the tomb, researchers also discovered an image of Jupiter, the supreme god in ancient Roman religion. According to experts, this was the first Roman bilingual inscription ever discovered in the Diber region. It provides valuable evidence of the cultural interaction between the Roman Empire and the native Illyrian communities during the period when Rome expanded its influence throughout the Balkans. However, what impressed many people the most was not only the architecture of the tomb, but the artifacts buried alongside the deceased. Inside the burial chamber, archaeologists uncovered a collection of valuable grave goods, including finely crafted glass objects, knives, various ceramic vessels, and high-quality everyday items. Each artifact reflected the wealth and exceptional status of the person buried there. According to experts, the quality and variety of these objects suggest that Gelliano was likely a highly influential figure within the local Roman administration during his lifetime. He may have served as a provincial official or possibly been a wealthy landowner who controlled significant economic resources. More importantly, these artifacts are not only valuable from a historical perspective, they also reveal the vast trade networks of the Roman Empire. Although the Diber region was located far from the empire's major political centers, it still maintained strong connections with large cities through commercial exchanges. This proves that the area once played an important role within the economic and trade system of the Roman Empire. As researchers continued studying the structure, archaeologists became increasingly impressed by the scale and complexity of the tomb's construction. This was not a simple burial pit, but a monumental tomb designed in the distinctive architectural style of Roman funerary monuments. The burial chamber was approximately 8 feet high and connected to the outside through a large staircase, while the walls were decorated with intricate geometric patterns. The transportation of massive limestone blocks from distant locations alone would have required enormous amounts of labor and resources. Every detail indicates that the owner of this tomb was once a person of very high status in society. Interestingly, this tomb also clearly reflects the cultural blending between two civilizations. At the time the structure was built, the elite population of the Diber region had adopted many customs and rituals from the Roman Empire, while still preserving traditional elements of the native Illyrian culture. The bilingual inscription carved into the stone is perhaps the clearest evidence of the merging of two cultures that existed side by side in this region. In addition, the location of the tomb carries special historical significance. During that period, the Diber region belonged to the Roman province of Moesia and was considered a crossroads between trade routes, military roads, and cultural exchanges. Perhaps because of this strategic position, the area was not only an important territory for Rome, but also served as a bridge connecting the powerful Roman civilization with the Illyrian communities that had inhabited the Balkan Peninsula for centuries. As you can see, from a single tomb buried for nearly 1,700 years, archaeologists have not only rediscovered the identity of a man named Gelliano, but have also reconstructed an entire chapter of the Roman Empire's complex and transformative history. Fascinating, isn't it? The 2,100-year-old gold treasure of the Lord of Sakar leaves archaeologists astonished. There are some tombs that are open simply to help archaeologists determine the age of a civilization. But there are also tombs where, from the very first moment they are uncovered, everyone immediately realizes they are standing before a discovery that could become part of history. And the tomb of the Lord of Sakar is one of those extraordinary discoveries. From glittering gold jewelry and an intricately crafted crown to the skeleton of a warhorse buried respectfully beside its owner, every detail reveals that the person resting inside this tomb was no ordinary individual. So, who was he? Why, after more than 2,000 years, does his final resting place still contain a treasure that remains almost perfectly preserved? And what made archaeologists give him the powerful title of the Lord of Sakar? To answer these questions, let us travel to the Sakar region in southeastern Bulgaria. Because it was here, in 2024, that workers preparing the ground for the construction of a solar energy park discovered archaeological remains buried deep beneath the earth. The project was immediately halted, allowing experts from the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences to conduct an emergency excavation. At the time, no one could have imagined that beneath what appeared to be an ordinary mound of earth was actually a burial site dating back approximately 2,100 years, a tomb complex that scientists would later describe as one of the most luxurious ever discovered in Bulgaria. But this unbelievable discovery became a reality. As the excavation began, the archaeological team gradually uncovered two tombs located next to each other. One tomb contained the remains of a young woman, while the other was the final resting place of a middle-aged man. Both individuals were buried with numerous valuable gold artifacts, indicating that they belonged to the highest social ranks of ancient Thracian society. However, it was the man's tomb that truly left the entire archaeological team speechless. From the moment the first layers of soil were removed, a series of treasures began appearing before the researchers' eyes. This man had been buried alongside a warhorse, surrounded by countless valuable objects made of gold and silver. The level of luxury surpassed many previously known tombs discovered in Bulgaria. Because of this, archaeologists gave him the impressive nickname, the Lord of Sakar. According to initial research, this man lived sometime between 150 and 100 BC, during the period of the ancient Thracian civilization. He died at approximately 35 to 40 years old, and was most likely a warrior from the noble class or a highly respected leader with significant status. The scale of his burial ceremony alone demonstrates that this individual once held great power and was deeply respected by his community. One of the most remarkable artifacts discovered was a silver wreath covered with gold leaf, still resting around the skull of the deceased. In addition, archaeologists found a crown, a symbol that was typically reserved for ceremonies involving members of the elite. But the discoveries did not stop there. Researchers also uncovered numerous other valuable artifacts, including ceramic vessels, glass containers, iron spears, shields, various silver ornaments, and an incredibly detailed knife decorated with precious stones. Each object reflects the astonishing craftsmanship of Thracian goldsmiths and metalworkers more than 2,000 years ago. However, what fascinated scientists even more was that the warhorse buried alongside its owner received almost the same level of honor and respect. This was not simply an animal companion. Instead, it appears to have been a powerful symbol of the warrior's status and strength during his lifetime. The horse's harness was decorated with remarkable craftsmanship and featured many precious objects. Among the most impressive was a gold-plated bronze ornament depicting the legendary hero Hercules defeating a giant from Greek mythology. In addition, the harness contained several other bronze animal figures that experts believe may have represented the heroic achievements of Hercules. Even more fascinating, the archaeological team discovered a golden crown shaped like a snake, a symbol often associated with power, protection, or the spiritual beliefs of ancient communities in the Balkan region. These details suggest that the tomb's owner was not only wealthy, but also deeply connected to the spiritual traditions and cultural beliefs of the era in which he lived. According to Evelina Slavcheva, chairwoman of the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, the gold treasures discovered across Bulgaria do not merely reflect the exceptional craftsmanship of the Thracians. They also reveal that this was once a wealthy, highly developed society with an incredibly rich spiritual life. Each artifact is like a missing piece of a historical puzzle, helping scientists better understand the civilization that once flourished in this region. Absolutely fascinating, isn't it? 2,000-year-old Roman girl's tombstone beneath a river reveals secrets buried for 2 millennia. Not every archaeological discovery begins with large-scale excavations or teams of experts carrying advanced modern equipment. Sometimes, history reveals itself in the simplest and most unexpected ways. With nothing more than a fishing rod beside a peaceful river, an ordinary fisherman can accidentally open a doorway to a past that existed nearly 2,000 years ago. What makes this discovery even more remarkable is that it was not a golden treasure or a rare ancient statue. It was simply an old stone monument that had been lying silently at the bottom of a river for centuries. Yet, the words carved into that stone were enough to deeply move archaeologists because they preserved the story of a Roman girl whose existence seemed to have been erased by time. Now, imagine this. After nearly 2,000 years, if a family member had still left a message for their daughter on a stone monument, what kind of emotions would that bring? That was exactly the question researchers faced when they deciphered the ancient inscription recently discovered in the city of Kranj, northern Slovenia. The story began when fisherman Jure Meden was fishing on the Sava River and suddenly noticed a large stone submerged beneath the water. At first, he thought it was simply an ordinary rock carried there by the river current, but its square shape and unusual markings on the surface made him suspect that it could be an object of historical importance. Instead of ignoring it, Jure Meden quickly contacted the Institute for the Protection of Cultural Heritage of Slovenia to report his discovery. Soon afterward, archaeological experts were sent to the site. After lifting the stone from the water and carefully cleaning it, they quickly realized that it was not an ordinary rock, but an ancient Roman tombstone dating back to approximately the 1st or 2nd century AD. The discovery immediately attracted the attention of archaeologists because stone monuments with clearly preserved inscriptions are extremely rare. As researchers began decoding the ancient writing on the surface, they gradually reconstructed a deeply emotional story. The tombstone was created in memory of a young girl named Aurelia, who died at only 12 years old. Although the inscription contained only a few short lines, those words were enough to reveal the pain of a father who lost his daughter nearly 2,000 years ago. According to the research, Aurelia's own father personally created the stone monument to honor and remember his daughter. In ancient Roman society, personally building a tombstone for a loved one was not only an expression of deep family affection, but also a way to preserve the memory of the deceased for future generations. This makes the discovery far more meaningful because it is not merely an archaeological artifact, it is also evidence of a father's love that survived across time. However, the story still contains a mystery that scientists have not been able to fully solve. How did a tombstone end up lying beneath a river for centuries? Was there once an ancient Roman cemetery nearby, or was the stone washed away from its original location by a major flood thousands of years ago? So far, experts have not been able to determine the exact reason. However, erosion marks on the surface of the stone indicate that it remained underwater for a very long period, long enough for flowing water and gravel to smooth away many of its details. This only makes the discovery even more fascinating, because somewhere upstream or somewhere along the Sava River, there may still be traces of an ancient Roman settlement or cemetery that have never been discovered. If this hypothesis is correct, Aurelia's tombstone may only be the first piece of a much larger historical story waiting to be uncovered. As you can see, archaeology does not always need golden treasures to touch the human heart. Sometimes, a simple old stone monument, a few faded carved words, and the name of a young girl who died at just 12 years old are enough to connect the present with a past nearly 2,000 years ago. It reminds us that no matter how much time passes, the love parents have for their children remains something that never changes. So, if your parents are still with you today, always remember to cherish and appreciate them. 3,200-year-old tomb of an ancient Egyptian military commander reveals the power of the pharaohs. More than 3,000 years ago, in the vast deserts of Egypt, a powerful man was laid to rest alongside objects that symbolized his rank and authority. He was not a pharaoh, but he may have been the mastermind behind major military campaigns that helped protect the integrity of one of the greatest empires of the ancient world. Then, after thousands of years of silence, his tomb was unexpectedly awakened. Sealed for 3,200 years, the tomb still preserved traces of an era when the pharaohs ruled with absolute power. The objects resting beneath the desert floor were more than ancient artifacts. They were vital clues that allowed scientists to reconstruct the life of a mysterious military commander. This remarkable story unfolded in 2025, when Egyptian archaeologists announced an important discovery at Tel El Maskuda, an archaeological site in northeastern Egypt. There, they uncovered a tomb dating back approximately 3,200 years. It is believed to have belonged to a high-ranking military commander who served during the reign of Pharaoh Ramesses III, widely regarded as one of the last great pharaohs of ancient Egypt. As soon as researchers entered the tomb, they realized this was no ordinary burial. The artifacts they discovered immediately revealed the exceptional status of its owner. One of the most significant finds was a gold ring engraved with the name of Pharaoh Ramesses III. They also uncovered bronze arrowheads and a small ivory box. Although these objects may appear simple at first glance, they carry tremendous historical significance. In ancient Egyptian society, gold, military weapons, and rare luxury items were typically reserved for the ruling elite. More importantly, the objects directly associated with the reign of Ramesses III strongly suggest that the man buried here once held a prominent position within Egypt's military hierarchy. But what surprised archaeologists even more was another group of artifacts. Inside the tomb, they discovered pottery jars inscribed with the name of Pharaoh Horemheb, a ruler who reigned more than a century before Ramesses III, from about 1323 to 1295 BC. So why would the name of a pharaoh who lived over 100 years earlier appear inside the tomb of a military commander from the time of Ramesses III? Researchers believe the answer may lie in the fact that this area was used repeatedly over different historical periods. Horemheb himself began his career as a military general before becoming pharaoh, so the presence of his name may reflect the site's long-standing connection with Egypt's military establishment. As for the tomb's design, experts say it was built primarily from mud brick, a common construction material in ancient Egypt. The structure consists of a main burial chamber and 3 adjoining rooms, with walls coated in white plaster. Its carefully planned layout indicates that it was constructed for someone of exceptionally high social status. For that reason, archaeologists believe this tomb is far more than a simple burial site. It also provides valuable insight into the strategic importance of Tel el-Maskuta during Egypt's New Kingdom period, which lasted from approximately 1550 to 1070 BC. At the time, the region served as a key defensive position along Egypt's eastern frontier, where the kingdom was forced to defend its borders against repeated external threats. As you can see, every archaeological discovery in Egypt is about much more than uncovering ancient objects. It is about piecing together the forgotten memories of a civilization that once dominated the ancient world. What's even more remarkable is that the discovery of this 3,200-year-old military commander's tomb is only one part of a series of groundbreaking archaeological finds announced in recent years. Shortly before this discovery, archaeologists astonished the world by announcing the discovery of the tomb of Pharaoh Thutmose II, one of the most significant royal discoveries since the tomb of Tutankhamun was uncovered in 1922. The tomb was discovered in the western valleys of the Theban necropolis near the city of Luxor by a joint British-Egyptian research team led by Dr. Piers Litherland. According to Muhammad Ismail Khalid, Secretary-General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, it is one of the most important archaeological discoveries of recent years. Even more exciting, just a few days later, the same research team announced that they may have located a second tomb associated with Thutmose II. Buried approximately 75 feet beneath the surface, it is concealed beneath a carefully arranged mixture of limestone, ash, mud, and plaster that appears to have been intentionally designed to hide the structure for thousands of years. Researchers believe the site may still contain the pharaoh's mummy, along with numerous priceless burial treasures. That wasn't the only extraordinary discovery. During the same year, a French-Swiss archaeological team also attracted worldwide attention after uncovering a tomb approximately 4,000 years old belonging to a powerful magician and physician who once served Egypt's pharaohs. Hieroglyphic inscriptions on the walls identified the tomb's owner as Tetenebefo, a renowned royal physician who served during the reign of King Pepi II around 2305 to 2118 BC. Taken together, these discoveries reveal one undeniable truth. Beneath Egypt's golden sands, countless untold stories are still waiting to be uncovered. And perhaps, somewhere deep beneath these ancient lands, even greater secrets remain hidden, waiting for the day they are finally brought back into the light. 4,000-year-old gateways to the world of the dead reveal a dark chapter of ancient Egypt. Have you ever wondered what the ancient Egyptians believed happened after death? Was death truly the end of life, or merely a doorway into another world? And what if I told you that archaeologists have discovered extraordinary gateways that were never meant for the living to walk through, but were instead created for the spirits of the dead to return? Would you believe it? It sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? Yet this isn't a legend or a myth. It's a real archaeological discovery that has given scientists new insight into one of the most mysterious periods in ancient Egyptian history. The story began in 2019, when a Spanish archaeological team announced an extraordinary discovery at the ancient cemetery of Ignacia el Medina, located in the region of Heracleopolis Magna, about 60 miles south of modern-day Cairo. There, they uncovered 3 sandstone false doors believed to date to Egypt's first intermediate period, which lasted from approximately 2160 to 2055 BC. What makes this discovery especially significant is that this period remains one of the least understood eras in Egyptian archaeology. The surviving historical records describe it as a time of political turmoil, conflict, and struggles for power, yet very little archaeological evidence has survived. As a result, every new discovery at Heracleopolis is considered an invaluable piece of the puzzle, helping researchers reconstruct a chapter of history that was almost completely forgotten. In addition to the 3 false doors, the archaeological team also uncovered 2 offering tables used in funerary rituals, along with a previously unknown tomb. However, what fascinated experts the most was the meaning behind these mysterious false doors. At first glance, they appear to be nothing more than rectangular doorways carved into stone, but they don't actually lead anywhere. So why would the ancient Egyptians devote so much effort to creating doors that could never be opened? The answer lies in their beliefs about the afterlife. According to Egyptologists, these false doors served as symbolic passageways connecting the world of the living with the spirits of the deceased. The ancient Egyptians believed that through these gateways, the souls of the dead could return to receive offerings, enjoy food and drink, and hear the prayers of their surviving family members. Egyptologist Salima Ikram has explained that these false doors served as a point of communication between the 2 worlds. The living could deliver messages to the deceased, while the spirits of the dead could return to receive the offerings placed before them before continuing their journey into the afterlife. During these ceremonies, beer and wine were among the most common offerings placed on the offering tables. The newly discovered false doors were carved from sandstone and beautifully decorated with religious inscriptions, along with the names and titles of those buried there. Remarkably, traces of blue and red paint still remain, as well as carved designs that imitate the appearance of a recessed doorway. According to Carmen Perez Diez, director of the excavation and a researcher at Spain's National Archaeological Museum, the artwork on these doors is exceptionally refined and likely belonged to individuals of high social standing, such as powerful priests or members of the royal family who lived close to the king. Even more intriguing, one of the false doors bears the name Khedi, a royal name that appeared during Egypt's 9th and 10th dynasties. During that era, the use of a royal name was often considered a sign of noble status or close ties to political power. Yet the greatest mystery surrounding this cemetery isn't simply the false doors themselves. It's the question, what really happened to the city of Heracleopolis? Previous excavations uncovered numerous tombs that had been deliberately burned and looted. However, archaeologists still don't know who was ultimately responsible for the destruction. Was it the result of wars between Heracleopolis in northern Egypt and Thebes in the south? Or was it simply the work of tomb robbers searching for gold and other valuable treasures? These questions arise because, according to experts, after the power of the Old Kingdom pharaohs based in Memphis declined around 2160 BC, many regional cities began competing for control of Egypt. For roughly a century, Heracleopolis became the dominant political center in northern Egypt, while Thebes controlled the south. The 2 rival powers fought repeatedly until the rulers of Thebes ultimately emerged victorious, reunifying Egypt and ushering in the prosperous Middle Kingdom. Exactly how that transfer of power unfolded, however, remains one of archaeology's greatest unanswered questions. In an effort to find answers, the research team analyzed burn marks preserved on the mud brick walls of the tombs. By studying the color changes in the fire-damaged bricks, they were able to estimate the temperatures reached during the fires and better understand how the destruction occurred. Their preliminary findings revealed that the entire cemetery was not destroyed in a single catastrophic blaze. Some tombs were left completely untouched, while others displayed obvious evidence of fire damage. This has led researchers to favor the theory that multiple smaller fires occurred at different times, possibly started by tomb robbers who entered the burial chambers in search of gold and other valuable objects. Salima Ikram believes it is unlikely that the rulers of Thebes intentionally destroyed the entire cemetery. Instead, she suggests that tomb robbers may have deliberately set fires inside certain areas to help break into the tombs or make it easier to steal valuable treasures. And that's exactly what makes this discovery so extraordinary. These three false doors may appear to be nothing more than ancient slabs of stone, but in reality, they open another kind of doorway, a gateway into the thoughts, beliefs, and deepest secrets of the people who lived in Egypt more than 4,000 years ago. There are undoubtedly many more stories still lying hidden beneath Egypt's endless sands, and with every ancient doorway that is uncovered, we move one step closer to understanding a civilization that once amazed the entire world. Archaeology really is fascinating, isn't it? The remarkably intact, 4,500-year-old tomb of an Egyptian official reveals rare secrets about ancient Egypt's middle class. Can you believe that among the thousands of Egyptian tombs that were looted centuries ago, there was still one burial chamber that remained almost perfectly intact, untouched by human hands for nearly 4,500 years? What's even more remarkable is that its owner wasn't a powerful pharaoh, nor a prince or a famous nobleman. He was simply a mid-ranking official, a man whose position in society would hardly suggest that his tomb would one day become one of the most valuable archaeological discoveries of modern times. So, what allowed this burial chamber to escape tomb robbers for nearly 4,500 years? And what secrets were preserved inside the room buried beneath the desert sands? Let's follow the clues and uncover this extraordinary story together. The story began in 2006 when archaeologists discovered an ancient tomb at Abusir, a vast necropolis located near Cairo, Egypt. Long known as the City of the Dead, Abusir served as the burial ground for kings, government officials, and nobles from Egypt's 5th dynasty through the 26th dynasty. What truly captured the attention of the archaeological world, however, came during the extensive excavations that followed as a Czech archaeological mission continued investigating the site. Hidden behind an old mud brick wall on the eastern side of the cemetery was a small burial chamber located about 33 feet beneath the surface. At first, no one suspected that anything extraordinary lay behind the weathered wall. But after only a few hours of excavation, expedition leader Miroslav Barta realized something that nearly made his heart stop. The tomb had never been looted. Just imagine what that meant. For thousands of years, nearly every Egyptian burial chamber had been broken into by grave robbers searching for gold, precious statues, or valuable funerary treasures. Even many of the pharaoh's tombs were unable to escape that fate. This tomb, however, was completely different. Everything remained exactly where the ancient Egyptians had carefully placed it nearly 4.5 millennia earlier. Miroslav Barta later recalled that his first emotion was overwhelming excitement. But only seconds later, that excitement was replaced by an enormous sense of responsibility. He knew he wasn't simply standing before another ancient tomb. He was looking at an irreplaceable archive of Egyptian history. What makes this discovery even more unique is that the tomb did not belong to a king or a member of the royal family. Instead, it belonged to a priest and government official from Egypt's 5th dynasty named Neferinpu. Based on inscriptions carved at the entrance, researchers determined that he served under two pharaohs, Neferirkare, who ruled from approximately 2475 to 2455 BC, and Niuserra, who reigned from about 2445 to 2421 BC. According to experts, Neferinpu most likely supervised state construction projects. It was an important government position, yet he still belonged to Egypt's wealthy middle class rather than the royal family or the highest ranks of the nobility. That is exactly what makes this discovery so extraordinary. Archaeologists have uncovered many royal tombs over the years, but an untouched burial chamber belonging to a middle-ranking official is exceptionally rare. As a result, this discovery offered scientists an invaluable opportunity to understand exactly how people of this social class lived and how they were buried, and that is precisely what they found. Stepping into the chamber, which measured only about 86 square feet, the excavation team felt as though they had traveled back in time to attend the funeral of an Egyptian official more than 4 millennia ago. Before them stood 10 sealed beer jars, more than 80 miniature limestone vessels, a small perfume container, and numerous plates and bowls symbolizing the food and drink that the ancient Egyptians believed the deceased would need in the afterlife. Most remarkable of all were 4 canopic jars, the famous containers used to preserve the internal organs during the mummification process. Every object remained exactly where it had originally been placed, as though the funeral had taken place only yesterday. When archaeologists opened the coffin, they found that Neferenpu's body had deteriorated significantly. Surprising, since he had been buried during a period when mummification techniques had not yet reached the level of sophistication seen in later dynasties. Even so, hundreds of decorative faience beads still remained on his remains. Beside him lay a walking staff approximately 6.5 feet long, decorated at the top with small pieces of gold. According to Tariq El-Awadi of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, the coffin also contained a wooden scepter held in Neferenpu's left hand, a symbol of the authority and status he possessed during his lifetime. Yet what archaeologists value most about this discovery isn't the burial objects themselves. Its greatest significance lies in the extraordinary amount of historical information the tomb provides. Experts explain that modern archaeology is no longer focused simply on uncovering gold or hidden treasures. Its true goal is to reconstruct how people in the past actually lived, worked, and were laid to rest. Professor Salima Ikram, an Egyptologist at the American University in Cairo, also believes that Neferenpu represents the perfect example of ancient Egypt's prosperous middle class. He wasn't the wealthiest man in society, nor did he occupy the highest office. Precisely because of that, his tomb has allowed researchers to better understand a social class that history has rarely documented in detail. Studies also show that during the 5th dynasty, government officials remained entirely dependent upon the king. The size of a tomb, its architectural design, and even the quantity of burial goods were determined by the pharaoh himself. It wasn't until the 6th dynasty, when centralized royal authority gradually weakened, that government officials became wealthier and more independent, leading to increasingly lavish tombs in later generations. So why did Neferenpu's burial chamber manage to escape the tomb robbers? The answer, surprisingly, is remarkably simple. According to Miroslav Barta, the tomb was saved by its own simplicity. The structure was modestly built and occupied an unremarkable location. Directly across from it stood a much larger, more impressive, and far wealthier tomb, which quickly became the obvious target for treasure hunters. Tariq El-Awadi agrees, explaining that tomb robbers usually focused on monumental structures because they assumed those tombs contained the greatest riches. Neferenpu's humble burial chamber simply wasn't impressive enough to attract their attention. Ironically, what appeared to be its greatest weakness became its perfect protection for nearly 4,500 years. Isn't that fascinating? Sometimes history's greatest secrets aren't hidden inside magnificent palaces or gold-covered royal tombs. Instead, they quietly rest inside a small forgotten chamber beneath the desert sands, patiently waiting for the modern world to uncover them and piece together the surviving memories of one of history's greatest civilizations. I'd love to hear what you think about this discovery. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. 4,300-year-old gold-covered mummy and the untold secrets hidden beneath Egypt's desert sands. There is something truly extraordinary about Egypt that continues to amaze archaeologists to this day. The deeper they dig beneath the desert sands, the more they uncover tombs that seem to have vanished from history forever. But not every tomb is filled with gold or priceless treasures. Sometimes, what astonishes the scientific community the most is a coffin that has remained sealed for thousands of years, preserving the remains of an ancient person in an almost untouched state. One of the strongest examples of this was a discovery announced in January 2023 following excavations at the Saqqara necropolis, located about 20 miles south of Cairo, Egypt. Saqqara is one of the world's most famous archaeological complexes, serving as the burial ground for Egypt's kings, nobles, and high officials for thousands of years. Leading the excavation was Dr. Zahi Hawass, Egypt's former Minister of Antiquities, who has devoted decades to studying the country's pyramids and ancient tombs. It was here that he uncovered a rectangular limestone sarcophagus sealed with mortar using traditional ancient Egyptian construction techniques. Inside lay the remains of a man named Heka Shepes. Based on their initial examination, experts determined that the coffin was approximately 4,300 years old, and that its seal remained almost completely intact, appearing almost exactly as it had on the day ancient craftsmen completed the final burial ceremony. From these remarkable details, Dr. Hawass concluded that this could be the oldest and most complete mummy ever discovered in Egypt. After all, over the course of more than 4 millennia, Egypt has endured wars, earthquakes, tomb robberies, and the relentless effects of time. Yet this individual still rested peacefully inside his stone sarcophagus, wrapped in delicate sheets of gold, as though the ancient Egyptians had completed the burial only a short time ago. Even so, that wasn't what excited archaeologists the most. What thrilled them even more was the realization that this mummy represented only one part of an entire Old Kingdom cemetery complex. Nearby, the research team uncovered the tomb of Khnum-Jed-F, a priest who had served within the pyramid complex of Pharaoh Unas. They also discovered the burial place of another royal court official. Each newly uncovered tomb added another piece to the puzzle of how Egypt's elite lived more than 4,000 years ago. And the discoveries didn't stop there. Inside another tomb, archaeologists found 9 beautifully carved statues. Based on a nearby false door, Dr. Hawass believes the tomb most likely belonged to a priest named Messi. As excavations expanded, the team also uncovered a shaft descending approximately 33 feet below the surface. At the bottom, they discovered numerous remarkably well-preserved wooden statues, along with 3 stone statues depicting a man named Fetek. Beside these statues stood an offering table and a stone sarcophagus containing Fetek's mummy, indicating that this area once served as a burial ground for several individuals of high social status in ancient Egypt. The discoveries didn't end there. Researchers also recovered numerous amulets, stone vessels, pottery, statues of Egyptian deities, and a wide variety of everyday household objects. According to the archaeological team, all of these artifacts date from approximately the 25th to the 22nd centuries BC, providing an exceptionally detailed picture of daily life during Egypt's Old Kingdom. But do you think the surprises ended there? Not even close. While continuing their research on Egyptian mummies, scientists uncovered an even more astonishing story, although this one did not take place at Saqqara. Beginning in 2015, a research team led by Markin Eismond examined more than 40 Egyptian mummies housed at the National Museum in Warsaw, Poland. One of those mummies had originally been excavated from the royal necropolis at Thebes in Upper Egypt before being presented to the University of Warsaw in 1826 as a diplomatic gift. For nearly 2 centuries, everyone believed it was the mummy of an Egyptian male priest named Hor Jehuti, since early X-ray examinations and the hieroglyphic inscriptions on the coffin both appeared to support that conclusion. But when modern imaging technology was used to re-examine the mummy, the story took a completely unexpected turn. While analyzing the pelvic region, anthropologists noticed something highly unusual. Instead of the skeletal structure of a man, they saw the tiny foot of an unborn child. Additional CT scans and X-ray examinations confirmed the astonishing truth. The mummy actually belonged to a pregnant woman between 20 and 30 years old, carrying a fetus estimated to be 26 to 30 weeks into pregnancy when both mother and child died. Scientists believe the mummy dates to approximately the 1st century BC. This remarkable discovery opened an entirely new field of research into pregnancy, prenatal care, and ancient Egyptian burial practices. It has also given researchers a deeper understanding of how the ancient Egyptians viewed life, death, and the spiritual significance of unborn children within their religious beliefs. As you can see, every time archaeologists open an ancient coffin, they uncover far more than a mummy. They uncover stories that have never been told, people who lived thousands of years before us, and secrets that have remained hidden beneath Egypt's desert sands, patiently waiting for the modern world to discover them. 2,600-year-old mummification workshop reveals the secret formula behind ancient Egyptian mummies. For thousands of years, the world has been captivated by a question that no one has ever been able to answer completely. What did the ancient Egyptians use to create mummies that could survive for thousands of years while preserving their bodies in such remarkable condition? We know they were masters of the art of mummification, but their true formula seemed to have been buried forever beneath the desert sands alongside the pharaohs. Now, however, archaeologists have finally begun to uncover that secret. Surprisingly, they didn't find the answer written on an ancient papyrus scroll or carved into walls covered with hieroglyphs. Instead, it was hidden in a place almost no one would have expected, inside ordinary clay jars buried beneath the ground of a mummification workshop that had remained hidden for more than 2,600 years. When archaeologists recovered these jars, they realized they hadn't merely discovered ancient pottery. They had uncovered the chemical recipes that once allowed the ancient Egyptians to slow the natural process of decay. So just think about it. How could a civilization that lived more than 2.5 millennia ago develop preservation techniques so effective that they still astonish modern scientists today? The answer began to emerge through a study published in the journal Nature on February 1st, based on artifacts excavated from the ancient Saqqara necropolis, located about 19 miles south of Cairo, Egypt. In fact, archaeologists first discovered this remarkable workshop back in 2016 while excavating an underground embalming facility dating to approximately the 6th and 7th centuries BC, roughly 2,600 years ago. However, it took years of laboratory research and chemical analysis before experts were finally able to decipher the residues preserved inside the artifacts. In total, researchers recovered 121 ceramic vessels from the workshop. Among them, 31 jars still retained labels identifying their contents clearly enough for scientists from Germany and Egypt to conduct detailed analyses. And those seemingly ordinary containers turned out to provide one of the most important breakthroughs ever made in understanding ancient Egyptian mummification. Previously, scholars knew the names of several substances mentioned in ancient texts, but no one truly understood what those materials actually were. For the first time, researchers were able to determine the precise chemical composition of the substances used by Egyptian embalmers thousands of years ago. Their analysis revealed that the ancient Egyptians did not rely on a single oil or a single type of resin. Instead, they created numerous specialized mixtures, each designed for a specific stage of the mummification process. Every formula served a different purpose, from eliminating odors and preventing fungal growth to killing bacteria and slowing the body's natural decomposition. According to the researchers, the ingredients included oils derived from juniper, cypress, and cedar trees, along with pistachio resin, animal fat, and beeswax. All of these substances possess excellent antibacterial and antifungal properties, making them highly effective for preserving human remains in Egypt's hot, arid climate. But perhaps the greatest surprise was that the Egyptians did not apply the same formula to the entire body. After analyzing the chemical residues remaining inside each jar, researchers discovered that different body parts were treated with completely different mixtures. For example, pine resin and castor oil were used specifically for the head, while other areas of the body received entirely different combinations. This discovery demonstrates that the Egyptian mummification process was far more sophisticated than scientists had previously imagined. And the discoveries didn't stop there. The research also solved another mystery that had puzzled scholars for centuries. Ancient Egyptian texts frequently mention a substance called antiyu. For many years, researchers could only speculate that antiyu referred to a fragrant resin or perhaps frankincense. Now, thanks to chemical analysis, scientists know that antiyu was actually a carefully blended mixture consisting of cedar oil, juniper oil, cypress oil, and animal fat. Not a single ingredient as previously believed. Even that wasn't the most astonishing revelation. When scientists traced the origins of these ingredients, they discovered that many of them did not come from Egypt at all. In addition to materials imported from the Mediterranean region, researchers identified evidence of elemi oil and resins from several tree species native to Southeast Asia. This means that more than 2,600 years ago, ancient Egypt was already participating in an extensive international trade network that connected regions across Africa, the Mediterranean, and perhaps even parts of Asia. Rare and valuable ingredients traveled enormous distances for one extraordinary purpose: to preserve the human body after death. So it would not be an exaggeration to say that the discovery of this ancient embalming workshop at Saqqara has done far more than reveal the formula behind the world's most famous mummies. It has also opened an entirely new window into the medical knowledge, chemical expertise, and far-reaching trade networks of ancient Egyptian civilization. Sometimes, all it takes is a handful of dust-covered clay jars for history to tell us extraordinary stories that remain beyond human understanding for thousands of years. And isn't that absolutely fascinating? The mysterious scroll, hidden inside an Egyptian mummy's abdomen, left archaeologists stunned. Imagine that one day archaeologists open an ancient Egyptian mummy, and instead of finding gold, treasure, or protective amulets, they discover a carefully preserved scroll tucked inside the deceased's body, one containing a passage from one of ancient Greece's most famous epic poems. What would you think it meant? Was it part of a unique religious ritual? A secret message meant to accompany the dead into the afterlife? or simply an extraordinary coincidence that defies explanation? If you can't answer that question just yet, then let's travel to the archaeological site of Oxyrhynchus, an ancient cemetery located in the town of Al-Banasa, in Egypt's Minya Governorate, where this remarkable mystery first came to light. During an excavation led by the University of Barcelona in Spain, archaeologists uncovered a mummy dating to Egypt's Roman period, spanning from 30 BC after the death of Queen Cleopatra to AD 641, when Egypt came under the control of the Rashidun Caliphate. At first, everything unfolded much like hundreds of previous excavations, but when researchers carried out a detailed examination of the mummy's body, they discovered something completely unexpected inside the abdominal cavity. It wasn't jewelry, it wasn't a golden amulet. Instead, it was a carefully preserved papyrus scroll that had remained hidden there for thousands of years. What truly astonished the team was the text written on it. After deciphering the document, researchers discovered that it contained a passage from Book 2 of the Iliad, Homer's legendary epic describing the famous catalogue of ships, the list of Greek forces that sailed to attack the city of Troy. At this point, many people naturally ask the same question. Why would a Greek literary masterpiece be placed inside the body of an Egyptian mummy? That is exactly the mystery archaeologists are still trying to solve. According to Esther Pons Melado, the director of the excavation, the papyrus was most likely placed inside the deceased during the mummification process itself. The research team believes its purpose may have been to protect the deceased's soul during its journey into the afterlife. In fact, placing papyrus inside mummies is not entirely unprecedented. Archaeologists have discovered similar examples before. However, those papyrus scrolls almost always contained magical spells or religious texts intended to help the deceased overcome the dangers awaiting them in the next world. This discovery, however, is completely different. For the first time in archaeological history, part of the Iliad, the Greek epic composed approximately 2,700 to 2,800 years ago, has been found inside an Egyptian mummy. As a result, this extraordinary find has raised a whole new series of questions about the cultural exchange between Greek and Egyptian civilizations during the Roman occupation of Egypt. Was the individual buried here a scholar with a deep appreciation for Greek literature? Or did the scroll hold a religious meaning that modern researchers have yet to fully understand? Unfortunately, scientists still don't have the answers. Their initial analyses reveal only that the mummy belonged to a man. His identity, occupation, and social status all remain unknown. Even more fascinating, this isn't the first time the cemetery at Oxyrhynchus has amazed the archaeological world. During previous excavation seasons at the same site, researchers uncovered more than a dozen mummies with gold tongues. As we know, according to ancient Egyptian beliefs, a golden tongue would allow the deceased to speak with the gods and communicate more easily in the afterlife. Now, the discovery of a papyrus scroll containing part of the Iliad has added yet another mystery to a site already famous for its extraordinary archaeological finds. Perhaps future advances in scientific technology will eventually reveal why the ancient Egyptians placed a Greek literary masterpiece inside the body of the dead. But for now, this remarkable papyrus remains one of the most unusual and unexplained discoveries ever found inside an Egyptian mummy. Mummy that contained 2 unborn lives reveals a heartbreaking secret from more than 2,300 years ago. You've probably heard of ancient Egyptian mummies buried with gold, precious amulets, and priceless treasures. But what if someone told you that scientists discovered 3 lives within a single mummy? Would you believe it? It sounds like something out of a supernatural legend, but this discovery is entirely real. And the deeper researchers investigated, the more they realized that what lay behind it wasn't an ancient curse or a mysterious ritual. It was a heartbreaking tragedy that leaves almost anyone speechless. The story begins with the mummy of a young Egyptian woman dating back more than 2,300 years to Egypt's late period, which lasted from approximately 712 to 332 BC. The mummy was discovered in the early 20th century and quickly attracted the attention of archaeologists. Yet it took more than a century of research and the help of modern medical imaging technology for the secrets hidden inside her body to finally come to light. When the coffin was first opened in 1908, researchers initially believed it was simply another ordinary Egyptian mummy. But during their very first examination, they made an astonishing discovery. Inside the young woman's body was the carefully wrapped fetus of an unborn baby. Between her legs, they also found traces of the placenta. This remarkable discovery prompted scientists to conduct a much more detailed investigation. After examining the pelvic region, they found that the fetus's skull had become lodged inside the birth canal. That crucial detail led experts to conclude that the young woman most likely died during an extremely difficult childbirth. At first, it seemed that the mystery had been solved, but it hadn't. The most shocking discovery would not come until more than a century later. Thanks to advances in CT scanning and modern medical imaging, a team of American researchers decided to perform a new, non-invasive examination of the mummy without damaging the remains. The results stunned everyone. Inside the young woman's chest cavity, they discovered another unborn fetus. In other words, this was not simply the mummy of a mother and her child. It contained 3 lives, all resting together inside a single coffin for more than 2,300 years. An extraordinary discovery, isn't it? According to Francine Margolis, the American archaeologist and lead author of the study, which involved researchers from George Washington University, this is believed to be the first known case of a mummified woman carrying twins ever discovered anywhere in the world. The findings were later published in the International Journal of Osteoarchaeology, marking one of the most remarkable discoveries involving Egyptian mummies in recent years. Many of you may be wondering, if the second fetus was originally inside the mother's womb, how did it end up in her chest? According to the researchers, the ancient Egyptians did not intentionally move the fetus. Instead, after the mother's death, the natural decomposition of soft tissues, particularly the diaphragm and the structures supporting the abdominal cavity, allowed the second fetus to gradually shift upward into the chest. Later, when the mother's body was carefully mummified, the embalming process unintentionally preserved the second unborn child in its new position. By analyzing her skeletal remains, scientists determined that the mother was only 14 to 17 years old when she died. She stood approximately 5 feet tall and is estimated to have weighed between 99 and 121 pounds during her lifetime. By the standards of ancient Egypt, she was still considered physically small and not yet fully developed. Experts believe that her young age, her narrow pelvis, and the fact that she was carrying twins combined to make childbirth extraordinarily dangerous. Even today, modern medicine recognizes twin pregnancies as carrying significantly higher risks. It's not difficult to imagine that more than 2,000 years ago, without any form of modern medical care, the chances of survival for a teenage girl in those circumstances would have been extremely slim. This discovery is important not only from an archaeological perspective, but also because it provides valuable insight into the lives of women in ancient Egypt. At that time, many girls married and became pregnant while they were still very young, long before their bodies had fully matured for childbirth. As a result, complications during labor were among the leading causes of death for women in the ancient world. Perhaps what makes this story so extraordinary isn't simply that scientists discovered another unborn child inside the mother's body. It's the fact that time itself preserved the final moments of 3 lives for more than 2,300 years. Every layer of linen wrapping, every bone, and every CT scan tells a heartbreaking story that history itself never recorded in words. Covered. The 20-foot giant skeleton found beside a giant snake in Thailand. For thousands of years, nearly every civilization on Earth has passed down stories of giants. The ancient Greeks spoke of the mighty Titans, born from the goddess Gaia. In the Odyssey, Odysseus encountered terrifying giants on a remote island. In the East, the legend of Fuxi is also linked to the footprints of a mysterious giant. However, as modern science advanced beginning around the 18th century, most researchers concluded that these stories were nothing more than myths born from human imagination. Giants gradually became figures of legend, with no convincing evidence to prove they had ever existed. But what if, one day, archaeologists claimed they had actually discovered a skeleton measuring 16 to 20 feet long, lying beside the remains of a gigantic snake? Would you still believe it was only a legend? That is exactly the story that sparked widespread public fascination when reports surfaced about a remarkable discovery inside Khao Kanop Nam Cave in Krabi Province, southern Thailand. According to reports published by local media outlets such as KBTV, Archaeologists conducting surveys and excavations inside the famous cave announced that they had uncovered an enormous skeleton estimated to measure between 16 and 20 feet in length. Even more astonishing was the discovery of the skeletal remains of a giant snake lying directly beside it, creating a scene that immediately reminded many people of the ancient legends that have been passed down through generations in Thailand. Just imagine witnessing two massive skeletons lying side by side inside a dark cave. Would you believe you were looking at evidence of a prehistoric battle or simply an extraordinary coincidence? It's a difficult question to answer, and that very mystery quickly turned the discovery into a topic of worldwide debate. The leader of the excavation team explained that Krabi is one of the first regions in Thailand where important archaeological discoveries involving ancient human remains have been documented. The area is also well known among scientists because fossils of the primate Siamapithecus eocanis, dating back approximately 35 million years, were previously discovered there. Although this primate is not considered a direct ancestor of modern humans, the discovery demonstrates that the Krabi region was once home to numerous ancient species and holds tremendous value for the field of paleontology. The story became even more intriguing following comments made by Professor Niwat Watanayaporn of the Faculty of Science and Arts at Kasetsart University. In an interview with the media, he stated that archaeologists had uncovered evidence believed to be associated with giants and unusually large animals. The team also noticed several striking similarities between the discoveries and the famous Naga legends deeply rooted in Krabi's local folklore. According to local tradition, a giant Asura and the serpent deity Naga both fell in love with a beautiful princess who lived in the region. Their rivalry eventually erupted into a catastrophic battle. In the end, both the giant and the Naga were transformed into two mountain ranges, standing on opposite sides of the Krabi River, creating the distinctive landscape that still exists today. For local residents, this is a sacred legend that has been passed down through countless generations. Therefore, when these mysterious skeletal remains were reportedly discovered in the very area connected to that legend, many people believed they might represent a missing link between mythology and history. Ancient texts from India and Southeast Asia also describe the Naga as divine serpent beings living in mysterious underground cities known as Patala and Bhogavati, whose name roughly means the abode of the serpents. Because of this, any discovery connected to the image of the Naga quickly attracts the attention of both researchers and enthusiasts of ancient mysteries. According to information from reliable Thai sources, the skeleton was reportedly well preserved, with the skull, sternum, and leg bones remaining almost completely intact. If scientific testing were to confirm that the remains represent a genuine archaeological discovery of significant importance, they would become one of the rarest nearly complete skeletons ever documented in the region since the devastating 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Local authorities also expressed their commitment to fully supporting further research. However, despite the many years that have passed since the story first emerged, no official scientific publication recognized by the international archaeological community has confirmed that the skeleton actually belonged to a giant standing 16 to 20 feet tall. Many scientists continue to emphasize that much more analysis and careful verification are required before any conclusions can be drawn. Even so, the story often reminds people of Robert Pershing Wadlow of Illinois, who stood 8 feet 11 inches tall, the tallest person ever reliably recorded in modern history. His extraordinary height demonstrates that, although extremely rare, humans can reach remarkable stature under exceptional circumstances. Some scientists have also proposed that Earth's ancient environment was very different from today's. Higher oxygen levels may have allowed many organisms to grow to enormous sizes. Fossil evidence shows that dragonflies once had wingspans approaching 28 inches, some plants reached heights of nearly 330 feet, and countless other giant animals once roamed the planet. But does that necessarily mean giant humans also existed? Or is this simply a fascinating combination of ancient legends, misunderstandings, and discoveries that have yet to be scientifically verified? Perhaps the real answer still lies hidden deep within the ancient caves of Krabi, waiting for future scientists to uncover the evidence needed to finally solve the mystery. Until then, the only thing we can do is wait. The 1,500-year-old tomb of a Turkic prince at the crossroads of four nations reveals the world's oldest known image of an ancient Kagan. Dear friends, in the vast grasslands of Central Asia, where the borders of Kazakhstan, China, Mongolia, and Russia's Siberian region nearly converge, archaeologists have made a discovery that has astonished the entire historical research community. The discovery was made in 2024 during excavations at the Aleke Archaeological Site in eastern Kazakhstan. Led by Dr. Zainullah Samashev of the Institute of Archaeology of Kazakhstan, the archaeological team uncovered an ancient tomb dating back approximately 1,500 years. At first glance, it appeared to be nothing more than an old burial mound resting quietly in the endless steppe. But the deeper the team excavated, the more they realized they were standing before one of the most significant discoveries ever made, relating to the Turkic civilization that once ruled much of Eurasia. What surprised experts the most, however, was the identity of the individual buried inside the tomb. Based on the archaeological evidence collected so far, researchers believe this may be the final resting place of a Turkic prince, known in the Old Turkic language as a Tigan, the title traditionally given to princes of the royal family. Of course, this remains a preliminary hypothesis, but if future research confirms it, the site would become one of the best preserved and most valuable noble Turkic tombs ever discovered. About 1,500 years ago, while much of Europe was still in the early Middle Ages, this vast steppe was home to an extraordinarily powerful nomadic empire. The Turkic Confederation controlled an immense territory stretching from Eastern Europe and the Mediterranean region across Siberia to Western China. For nearly 3 centuries, they were a formidable power that even the greatest empires of their time treated with caution. But do you know what truly stunned archaeologists around the world? It was 2 tiny gold artifacts discovered inside the tomb. Each piece measures only about 1.5 inches across, yet their historical significance is almost impossible to measure. Their surfaces feature exquisitely detailed carvings depicting a Khagan, the supreme ruler of the Turkic and Mongol peoples, seated majestically upon a throne formed by 2 horses. Upon his head rests a royal crown symbolizing his authority, while attendants stand respectfully on either side, presenting food as offerings. Each artifact also contains a small hole near the bottom, leading archaeologists to believe they once served as decorative belt fittings for a ceremonial belt reserved exclusively for members of the nobility. Even more remarkable is their age. At approximately 1,500 years old, these artifacts are believed to contain the oldest known depiction of a Turkic Khagan ever discovered. That fact alone makes the Aleke discovery a landmark in the study of ancient Turkic history. Not only does it provide historians with a clearer understanding of the clothing, ceremonial traditions, and royal authority of the empire's supreme ruler, but the 2 gold ornaments also open entirely new perspectives on the art and culture of a civilization that once dominated the Eurasian steppe. And the story doesn't end there. The tomb itself was built on an impressive scale, resembling a monumental memorial complex rather than an ordinary burial site. This strongly suggests that the individual interred there held an exceptionally high position within Turkic society. Many researchers also believe the prince may have belonged to the Ashina clan, the legendary royal family that founded the powerful Turkic Khaganates between the 5th and 8th centuries AD. It was this dynasty that laid the foundation for one of history's greatest nomadic empires before eventually being defeated by another Turkic group that later developed into the Uyghurs. This is truly a fascinating discovery, one that broadens our understanding of the ancient world and offers a rare glimpse into the remarkable legacy of a once powerful royal dynasty. The bizarre mummy that wasn't human revealed a lost legendary kingdom hidden for thousands of years in Egypt. My friends, have you ever wondered whether a single mysterious mummy buried for thousands of years could help scientists pinpoint the location of an entire kingdom that vanished from the map of history? It sounds like the plot of an adventure movie, doesn't it? But that's exactly what happened in 2023. That year, a team of researchers from Dartmouth College published a groundbreaking study in a scientific journal, revealing that DNA extracted from bizarre mummies discovered in ancient Egyptian tombs had helped identify the location of the Kingdom of Punt, a legendary land mentioned by the ancient Egyptians for thousands of years, yet whose exact location had remained one of history's greatest mysteries. This discovery was far more than just another archaeological find. It offered a possible solution to one of the biggest unsolved mysteries of ancient Egyptian civilization. So what exactly were these eerie mummies, and how were they connected to a lost kingdom that generations of historians had searched for? Let's find out. To answer those questions, we first need to understand what made this discovery so extraordinary. The mummies examined in the study were not human at all. They were carefully mummified baboons, preserved by the ancient Egyptians with remarkable care. At first glance, many people find them unsettling because of their fierce-looking faces and unusually shaped skeletons. Yet in ancient Egyptian religion, baboons held an exceptionally important place. Many scholars believe they were revered as manifestations of Babi, the fearsome god associated with the underworld and immense strength, while others consider them sacred symbols of Thoth, the god of the moon, wisdom, and knowledge. Because of their sacred status, many baboons were carefully mummified after death, much like Egyptian nobles or even the pharaohs themselves. To solve this mystery that had persisted for millennia, the research team, led by primatologist Nathaniel Dominy, began studying baboon mummies dating to Egypt's New Kingdom, roughly 1500 to 1070 BC. Their first step was to analyze chemical signatures preserved within the mummified remains to determine what the animals had eaten during their lifetimes. It may sound like a simple approach, but those tiny chemical traces allowed scientists to reconstruct the baboon's original habitat. The initial results surprised the entire team. The baboons had not lived in Egypt. Instead, they originated from a broad region encompassing present-day Somalia, Eritrea, and Ethiopia, the very area many historians had long suspected might be connected to the legendary kingdom of Punt. But the researchers didn't stop there. During the next phase of the project, they analyzed DNA from additional baboon mummies dating to a later period, approximately 800 to 540 BC. They then compared those ancient DNA samples with DNA collected from 14 baboons during the 19th and 20th centuries, whose geographic origins were already well documented. That comparison produced an extremely important clue. Among all the samples examined, one ancient DNA sample showed the closest genetic relationship to baboons currently living along the coast of modern-day Eritrea. This discovery gave researchers greater confidence than ever before in proposing that the kingdom of Punt was not merely a legend. It had almost certainly existed. They further suggested that this mysterious kingdom was most likely located near the ancient port city of Adulis, once a major trading center on the Red Sea. An even more fascinating implication emerged from the study. Evidence suggests that Punt existed before the establishment of the port of Adulis, meaning the earliest proof of commercial activity in this region may need to be pushed back by at least several centuries compared to what historians previously believed. Just think about that. Using nothing more than DNA preserved inside a mummified baboon, scientists were able to trace ancient trade routes, identify the homeland of animals transported thousands of miles to Egypt, and uncover clues pointing to the location of a kingdom that had been lost for thousands of years. Because baboons are not native to Egypt, their presence in ancient temples and tombs can only be explained by extensive long-distance trade between the Egyptians and distant lands. The Egyptians may have kept these animals as prized companions, or perhaps used them in religious ceremonies before carefully mummifying them after death. And in the end, these silent witnesses unknowingly preserved some of the most valuable evidence of the ancient world's trade networks, allowing modern researchers to gradually uncover the truth behind the kingdom of Punt, the legendary land that puzzled generations of archaeologists for centuries. Isn't that an incredible story? What do you think about this remarkable discovery? Do you agree with the researchers' conclusions, or do you have a different theory? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the discussion together. More than 2,000 mysterious monster mummies discovered inside a 4,300-year-old temple in Egypt. My friends, imagine walking into an ancient Egyptian temple and instead of finding the mummies of pharaohs or powerful nobles, you're confronted with more than 2,000 mummified animal heads covering the entire excavation site. What would you think was happening there? Could it be the remains of a terrifying sacrificial ritual, evidence of a mysterious cult, or a secret that ancient Egyptian civilization kept buried for thousands of years? Honestly, that's a difficult question to answer, isn't it? In fact, it's the very question that has puzzled and fascinated archaeologists around the world for years. The story began in early 2023, when archaeologists from New York University were excavating a newly explored section of the temple complex of Pharaoh Ramses II in the ancient city of Abydos, in southern Egypt, about 270 miles south of Cairo. There, they made a discovery that left everyone astonished. The surprise wasn't just the enormous number of mummies uncovered, it was also the remarkable secrets about religion and history, spanning more than 4 millennia, that gradually emerged from beneath the desert sand. As layer after layer of ancient soil was carefully removed from the temple site, the excavation team repeatedly uncovered strangely shaped mummies that were clearly not human. After a detailed examination, experts confirmed they had discovered approximately 2,000 mummified ram heads, an extraordinary number that even seasoned Egyptologists rarely encounter. But the story didn't end there. Mixed among the thousands of ram heads were mummies of dogs, wild goats, cattle, deer, and even an ostrich. So why did the ancient Egyptians devote so much effort to mummifying these animals? What significance did they hold for a civilization best known for its pharaohs and pyramids? According to Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, these animal mummies were created roughly 1,000 years after the death of Pharaoh Ramses II. That means they were not buried alongside the legendary pharaoh. Instead, they were brought to the temple by Egyptians living centuries later as sacred offerings, honoring a ruler who was regarded as one of the greatest pharaohs in Egyptian history. This discovery shows that although Ramses II had died long before, his reputation and authority continued to be revered by the Egyptian people for many centuries afterward. It also confirms that Abydos remained one of the most important religious centers of ancient Egypt. The discoveries didn't stop with the unusual mummies. During the excavation, archaeologists also uncovered a massive architectural structure with walls measuring more than 16 feet thick. Analysis revealed that the building dates to Egypt's 6th dynasty during the Old Kingdom, making it approximately 4,300 years old. This excited archaeologists even more because the structure is far older than the reign of Ramses II. Inside the building, researchers uncovered an impressive collection of artifacts, including ancient statues, preserved plant remains, leather shoes, clothing, and surviving papyrus scrolls. Each object serves as another piece of the puzzle, helping reconstruct everyday life in Egypt more than 4,000 years ago. According to Dr. Sameh Iskandar, the leader of the excavation team, the greatest significance of the discovery lies not only in the vast number of mummies or the rare artifacts, but also in its ability to help scientists reconstruct the ancient landscape of Abydos before the famous temple of Ramses II was built. In other words, these discoveries may reveal an entirely new chapter in the history of the sacred region, which once served as one of ancient Egypt's most important centers for religion and ceremonial rituals. As you can see, from more than 2,000 animal mummies, archaeologists have uncovered far more than evidence of ancient religious beliefs. They have traced the history of an entire period spanning over 1,000 years, from the 6th dynasty through Egypt's later periods of continued devotion to Ramses II. Every mummified ram's head, every massive stone wall, and every surviving fragment of papyrus tells another chapter in the story of a civilization that flourished along the banks of the Nile. And it's entirely possible that beneath the golden sands of Abydos still lie unopened chambers, undiscovered rituals, and hidden secrets that could reshape what we know about ancient Egypt. So what do you think? Has this excavation already revealed everything, or is it only the beginning of an even greater mystery waiting to be uncovered? Personally, I believe this is only the beginning. So let's wait and see what remarkable discoveries archaeologists will continue to uncover in this extraordinary place in the years ahead. The 1,200-year-old sunken city, beneath the sea that hid Egypt's forgotten temples and vast treasures. What if I told you that beneath the crystal blue waters of the Mediterranean Sea lies an entire ancient city, complete with massive temples, ships loaded with gold and silver, and countless treasures that humanity has yet to fully uncover? Would you believe me? Probably not. In fact, many people would likely say it sounds like the legend of Atlantis. Honestly, I couldn't believe it at first either. But after looking into it, I discovered that this story is completely real. For more than 1,000 years, the city vanished from every map, concealed beneath the sea and buried under thick layers of sediment as though it had never existed. It wasn't until archaeologists descended to the seafloor that they witnessed a breathtaking scene. Towering stone columns still stood proudly beneath the waves. Ancient temples rested silently beneath layers of sediment. Gold coins, precious jewelry, and the wrecks of ancient ships remained astonishingly well preserved, as if they had been waiting all this time to be brought back into the light. The city at the heart of this story is Heraklion, also known as Thonis, a legendary port city located near the mouth of the Nile River along Egypt's Mediterranean coast. Founded around the 8th century BC, Heraklion was once Egypt's most important gateway for trade with the Greek world. According to legend, the city was named after the mythical hero Heracles because ancient people believed he had once visited this very place. But Heraklion was far more than a bustling commercial center. It was also a sacred city where Queen Cleopatra is said to have undergone her coronation ceremony inside a magnificent temple at the heart of the city. Then, about 1,200 years ago, a series of powerful earthquakes, tsunamis, and catastrophic ground subsidence gradually caused the entire city to sink beneath the sea to a depth of approximately 148 feet, disappearing from history for centuries. It wasn't until 2000 that underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio and the European Institute for Underwater Archaeology discovered the first traces of Heraklion beneath Abu Qir Bay, near the Egyptian city of Alexandria. At the time, the discovery was hailed as one of the most important underwater archaeological finds of the 21st century. Since then, numerous expeditions have been launched to gradually uncover the secrets of this forgotten city. Most recently, during a 2-month excavation campaign announced not long ago, Egyptian and European archaeologists used advanced underwater imaging technology to map the seafloor, revealing additional ancient structures buried beneath thick layers of sediment. As the mud was carefully removed, they uncovered the ruins of a massive temple, whose enormous stone columns had remained standing despite spending thousands of years underwater. Beneath roughly 3 feet of sediment, the research team also discovered the remains of an ancient Greek temple, providing remarkable evidence of the strong cultural exchange between Egypt and Greece during antiquity. But the biggest surprise came when archaeologists discovered a massive ceremonial ship resting on the seabed. Before this expedition, researchers had already found 75 ancient ships, both intact and damaged. This latest excavation uncovered the missing section of ship number 61. After reassembling the pieces, the vessel measured approximately 43 feet long and 16 feet wide. On board, experts recovered bronze coins, gold coins, and numerous pieces of valuable jewelry. The coins were identified as dating to the reign of Ptolemy II, who ruled Egypt from 283 to 246 BC. Researchers also recovered ceramic artifacts dating from the 3rd to the 4th centuries BC, further confirming that Heraklion had once been an exceptionally wealthy and vibrant center of international trade. According to researchers, Heraklion had almost completely disappeared from humanity's memory for centuries. The city survived only in a handful of ancient texts and a few rare inscriptions found on land. That is why the discovery of an entire city beneath the sea confirmed beyond doubt that Heraklion was not merely a legend, it was a real city that once flourished. The colossal statues, inscribed stone stelae, religious artifacts, coins, jewelry, temple architecture, and countless other treasures recovered from the seabed have recreated a civilization seemingly frozen in time. Experts say both the quantity and exceptional quality of the recovered artifacts demonstrate that Thonis Heraklion reached its peak between the 6th and 4th centuries BC, before natural disasters ultimately claimed the city. The discoveries didn't stop there. Researchers expanded their survey to the nearby sunken city of Canopus, also located beneath Abu Qir Bay. There, they uncovered another ancient structure south of the city, along with numerous valuable artifacts, including coins from the Ptolemaic and Byzantine periods, as well as Ptolemaic rings and earrings. These discoveries indicate that Canopus remained a thriving city from the 4th century AD through the early Islamic period. Beneath what appears to be nothing more than sand and coral, the seafloor has preserved an extraordinary chapter of human history. Every statue, every gold coin, and every ancient ship recovered from the depths of the Mediterranean serves as another piece of the puzzle, helping us better understand a civilization that once flourished magnificently before suddenly disappearing. So, if I were to call this one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of our time, I don't think that would be an exaggeration at all. Don't you agree? Human remains beneath the Maya pyramid reveal clues to the lost Kanal Snake King dynasty. Deep within the dense jungles of Central America, where thousand-year-old Maya pyramids still lie hidden beneath a canopy of lush green trees, a secret slept undisturbed for more than 13 centuries. No one knew exactly where the powerful rulers who once governed this land had been buried. Even more puzzling, no one could explain why one of the mightiest dynasties of the Maya civilization had suddenly vanished from history. Then, in 2022, an excavation at the archaeological site of Holmol in northeastern Guatemala produced a discovery that thrilled archaeologists around the world. Buried deep beneath two ancient pyramids, researchers unexpectedly uncovered two tombs dating to approximately AD 650 to 700. What made the discovery truly extraordinary was that the evidence inside the tombs not only revealed the remarkable identity of those buried there, but also may provide the key to solving the mystery of the Kanal Snake King dynasty, an empire that once dominated much of the Maya world before disappearing without a trace. The excavation took place at Holmol, an ancient Maya city that once flourished as a major political, commercial, and cultural center. More than 1,000 years ago, it was one of the most prosperous cities in the region. But like many other Maya cities, Holmol was gradually abandoned as Maya civilization declined during the 8th and 9th centuries AD. Over time, the tropical rainforest reclaimed its monumental buildings, leaving only the tops of the pyramids rising above the endless sea of trees, standing as silent witnesses to a glorious civilization that had long since faded into history. While excavating beneath the foundations of the two pyramids, archaeologists uncovered two completely separate burial chambers, both dating to around AD 650 to 700, the very period when the power of the Kanal dynasty was at its height. The moment they opened the first tomb, the researchers realized they were looking at an exceptionally important discovery. Inside lay the remains of a middle-aged adult. What immediately caught their attention was that the individual's teeth had been inlaid with jade, an extremely rare practice reserved only for Maya nobles and members of the royal family. As you may know, more than 1,300 years ago, decorating teeth with precious jade was not merely a display of wealth. It was a powerful symbol of supreme status and authority. That single detail led scientists to believe the individual buried in the tomb was almost certainly an important member of the Maya royal elite. But the surprises didn't end there. Even more remarkable were the grave goods discovered alongside the skeleton. According to archaeologists, the burial contained an impressive collection of finely crafted offerings, including seashells, jade ornaments, animal bones, and ceramic vessels. Each artifact reflected both the extraordinary craftsmanship and the immense wealth enjoyed by the ruling class of that era. However, the object that left the research team almost speechless was a jade necklace. Carved into the necklace was the ancient inscription, Yi Yuk Num Uti Chan Kanul Aja. After deciphering the inscription, experts identified it as the name of Yuknum Uti Chan, one of the most famous snake kings of the Kanul dynasty. That inscription alone transformed the Holmol discovery into a landmark in Maya archaeology. Until now, direct historical evidence connected to the Kanul dynasty has been extremely rare. The appearance of a snake king's name inside the tomb strongly suggests that the individual buried there had very close ties to the royal family that once ruled much of the ancient Maya world. The Kanul dynasty, often referred to by archaeologists as the Snake King dynasty, was one of the most powerful political forces in ancient Mesoamerica. For centuries, its rulers controlled an extensive network of Maya city-states, launched military campaigns, and forged complex political alliances throughout the region. Yet, like the Maya civilization itself, the dynasty suddenly declined and disappeared from history, leaving almost no clear explanation behind. What happened to them? Was it war, climate change, disease, political conflict, or something else entirely? To this day, all of those possibilities remain only theories. Researchers emphasize that, despite the tremendous importance of this discovery, they consider it only the tip of the iceberg. Using modern archaeological technologies, including laser scanning, 3D mapping, and ancient DNA analysis, they hope to uncover many more tombs, artifacts, and historical records connected to the Kanul dynasty in the years ahead. Who knows, perhaps beneath the many unexplored pyramids of Homol still lie the tombs of the most powerful snake kings, along with secrets that could fundamentally rewrite the history of Maya civilization. And perhaps those silent human remains, resting undisturbed for more than 13 centuries, will ultimately become the final witnesses that allow humanity to solve the mysterious disappearance of one of the most powerful dynasties of the ancient world. It's certainly possible. After all, our world continues to advance every day. We've explored the deepest parts of the ocean, landed spacecraft on Mars, and returned to the moon. Compared to achievements like those, mysteries such as this are not impossible to solve. The only question is, when? And how long it will take before we finally uncover the truth. The 33-foot giant human skeleton found in Romania that could rewrite history. My friends, for thousands of years, nearly every civilization on Earth has passed down stories about a race of giants that once walked the planet. From the Titans of Greek mythology and the Nephilim mentioned in ancient texts to countless legends across Europe, Asia, and the Americas, gigantic human beings have always appeared as one of history's greatest mysteries. But were these stories simply the product of ancient imagination, or do they preserve traces of a truth we have yet to fully uncover? That very question captured worldwide attention after reports surfaced about a controversial discovery in Romania in 1976. According to accounts that circulated in later years, archaeologists excavating in the Carpathian Mountains supposedly uncovered human skeletons measuring approximately 33 feet in length. If those reports were true, they would challenge virtually everything we know about human evolution. But does this story have enough scientific evidence to be accepted? Or does it remain one of archaeology's greatest unsolved mysteries? Let's examine the entire story together and see whether we can arrive at the most reasonable answer to one question. Did giants really exist, or are they simply legendary figures created by ancient storytellers? The story begins in 1976 when reports claimed that unusually large skeletal remains had been discovered in Romania's Carpathian Mountains. According to those accounts, the skeletons measured up to 33 feet long, many times taller than any modern human. The reports also described unusual anatomical features, including enormous leg bones, elongated skulls, and exceptionally thick, robust skeletons. These details quickly fueled speculation that Earth may once have been home to a race of giant humans unknown to modern history. Just imagine this for a moment. If a 33-foot-tall human skeleton were actually excavated and scientifically confirmed, what would that mean? Everything we currently understand about human evolution, biological limitations, and even the history of ancient civilizations might have to be reconsidered from the ground up. It's no surprise that these reports generated tremendous excitement among enthusiasts of archaeology and ancient mysteries. At the same time, they sparked debates that have continued for decades. However, the deeper researchers investigated the story, the more complicated it became. Scientists point out that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. For that reason, many experts have called for a thorough review of every document connected to the alleged discovery to determine whether these giant skeletons ever actually existed. They argue that any conclusion must be based on properly documented archaeological excavations, professional anthropological analysis, scientific dating methods, and peer-reviewed research evaluated by the broader scientific community. As a result, many archaeologists and anthropologists remain skeptical. According to them, no peer-reviewed scientific publication has confirmed the existence of a 33-foot-tall human skeleton discovered in Romania. Some researchers believe the story may have originated from misunderstandings, exaggerations, or claims that were never properly verified. They also point out that, from a biological standpoint, a human standing 33 feet tall would face enormous challenges involving skeletal support, mobility, and blood circulation. Simply supporting the body's immense weight would already present a tremendous obstacle according to our current understanding of human biology. On the other hand, those who believe giant humans once existed offer a different perspective. They point out that countless ancient texts, myths, and legends from cultures around the world describe people of extraordinary size. In their view, the appearance of these stories across different civilizations and historical periods may not be purely coincidental. Some researchers have even linked the alleged Romanian skeletons to Hyperborea, the legendary land frequently mentioned in ancient Greek writings. According to this theory, Hyperborea was once home to an advanced civilization inhabited by people far larger than modern humans. Interestingly, stories about giant human skeletons are not limited to Romania. Over the past several decades, similar rumors have surfaced in many other countries. Some enthusiasts have attempted to connect these stories with enormous megalithic structures, elongated skulls, and other mysterious ancient artifacts that still lack definitive explanations, including the alleged discovery in Thailand that we discussed earlier in this video. Even so, none of these connections have yet been supported by reliable scientific research. Perhaps the most important lesson this story offers isn't whether giants actually existed, but rather how science approaches mysteries from the past. If unusually large skeletal remains were ever discovered, scientists would rely on systematic archaeological excavation, modern dating techniques, ancient DNA analysis, and close collaboration among archaeologists, geneticists, anthropologists, and experts from many other fields to reach the most objective conclusion possible. As of today, the story of the 33-foot giant skeleton in Romania has not been confirmed by credible scientific evidence. For that reason, it should currently be regarded as a hypothesis or an archaeological legend that continues to spark debate, rather than a historically verified event. That remains the scientific answer, at least for now, to the question, did giants truly exist, or do they belong only to legend? What do you think? Does that explanation seem reasonable to you? Or do you have another theory that better explains these stories? If you do, feel free to leave a comment below and share your thoughts with everyone. Dear friends, I hope that after today's journey of discovery, you've seen that every skeleton, every mummy, every ancient tomb, and every buried city hold stories that history has yet to fully explain. Even as science continues to advance, countless mysteries remain, challenging the world's leading experts to keep searching for answers. So, which discovery impressed you the most? And which mystery sparked your curiosity more than any other? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Ancient History channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our future journeys into the world's most fascinating archaeological discoveries and ancient mysteries. For now, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.